Shut the hell up.
Good morning.
Hey, Big Daddy, how you doing?
Good morning.
Shut the hell up.
Alarm.
Okay. All right. And a good time was had by all.
Well, a good time was had by me.
Yeah, no, we could tell. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. The Rob Brown radio program is live, and it starts right now. It is the Fan Upstate. How do you do? Everybody except fans of the Dallas Mavericks. I assume very well. I assume you had, again, unless you are a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, a spectacular evening yesterday evening. If you were a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, you had to know it was over, right? You had to know it was over before that game even started, and it felt over. I don't know what, about 2 minutes into the second period. It felt over. We're going to talk a lot of NBA Finals today. Why? Because that's what we do. Hello, I am Rob Brown on the other side of the metaphorical glass this AM, the guy in charge of this radio program and every radio program you've ever enjoyed ever at any point in your lifetime. The great one, Lonzo, is here. Hello, Zoe.
These are going to hurt you, sir.
I don't know why you're mad at me. I didn't do it.
Yeah, I'm not.
I had nothing to do with it.
A little jar in the morning. It's
America.
I mean, come on.
America. I had nothing to do with it at all, as a matter of fact. I have come to the conclusion that this build of the Dallas Mavericks, good as it was, ain't good enough.
Well,
It's just not.
They made a mistake by winning the game they did, because when they won that game, if they hadn't won that game, they got swept, then it would be like what we talked about before. There's one piece away. But winning the game in the fashion that they did, now it becomes, okay, the coach is not motivating them. This is the coach's fault, because if the coach could have gotten them to play that way every game, they would win a championship. So now management has to look and see, is Jason Kidd the guy? Because he couldn't motivate them to play the way they did in game 4 every single game.
I think that sometimes, and I am not directly accusing you of this right now, I think sometimes we tend to think of sports in a unilateral fashion. Like, we tend to take whatever the thing that we're talking about is, and we tend to point all our eyes at that. And we don't necessarily put it into the context of the outside forces and factors that make the thing operate. I mean, yes, the thing is a thing, but I think sometimes we tend to look at that thing and come to the conclusion that this is just what that thing is. And what I mean by that is, and I tried to say this after Friday night's game on yesterday's show, that win for Dallas had as much to do with what the Celtics did and didn't do as it did what Dallas did and didn't do. You had 4 games where the Boston Celtics dramatically outclassed the Dallas Mavericks. You had one game where Dallas had just had an anomaly. I think in game 4, like I said, not that it was, Boston wants to go home and win this thing on home ice, so to speak. I really do think it was just a matter of they kind of got to the point where they realized we don't really have to push in this game or in this series. They came out, they gave it a run. It obviously was going to be the best night Dallas had in the entire playoffs.
I don't know why it's obvious.
And they laid off.
I think it comes, management's going to look and go, okay, we could, if we would have done that, if we would have been motivated to play that way, and I'm not, this has nothing to do with Boston. This has to do with the way Dallas, especially the way they came out last night. They came out, in that first quarter, you knew they were done. They didn't come out playing with the same energy, with the same hunger that they did in game 4. And it's a coaching problem. And it's going to, I get, you can say, oh, well, just Boston had an off night. No, that's not it. It's a coaching problem. Jason Kidd's going to be gone. And they're going to find somebody, because you got a scapegoat has to be had for what we saw. If they got swept, it would be, hey, we got to bring in one more piece. But because they didn't get swept, because they looked as good as they did, because they put a legitimate blowout in game 4, Jason Kidd's going to be gone.
First off, I can go ahead and say I will bet you $1,000 Jason Kidd is not gone.
You also said that Dallas would win the series. So
Yes, I did.
don't
And
know.
then I saw what happened and I walked it off within quite literally
Then they
45
lost. So
minutes.
then I said, how much money did you lose?
Like $30.
Okay, that's
It's
a
not
lot.
the end of the
That's a lot to me. But
I mean,
okay,
I'm rich, I used to live
Obviously.
on a golf course. No, I don't agree with you on that take at all. I think, yes, let me walk that back. I do agree with you. I don't think Jason Kidd's that good. I think Jason Kidd and frankly, the Dallas Mavericks as a whole had the benefit of, with the exception of the Minnesota Timberwolves series. And I do think the Timberwolves, there was that narrative that the Timberwolves were built to beat Denver, but really nobody else. I actually do think that narrative now holds some water. I think that the Dallas Mavericks are a team that has a bunch of problems. Number one, as this texter said, they lost because Kyrie was Brick City. I agree. Kyrie Irving was going to give you one good game every now and then. That was the story of these playoffs. Unless you were playing a team that was just outright overmatched, Kyrie Irving was going to give you a good game every now and then, but it was every now and then. Kyrie Irving was an absolute liability to this basketball team in the NBA Finals. He had a good game. And it was the game where everybody on the Mavs had a good game because, like I said, in my ever so humble opinion, I think the Boston Celtics came out, they watched Dallas have themselves the night of the playoffs from the floor and just went, all right, whatever. We'll take this thing back to Beantown, right? We're up 3-0. The likelihood that Dallas is winning 4 in a row is 0%. It's literally 0%. It's never happened. So they kind of laid up on that one. But I think Kyrie Irving, outside of that game, a game in which I do think that Boston, for lack of a better way to put this, just didn't try after the first, 14 minutes of action or so. Outside of that, Kyrie Irving was a liability. And here's the problem. The problem is that they tried to pair a scorer who wasn't scoring alongside Luka Doncic. That's not the play. If you want the move for Dallas, it's not move on from Jason Kidd. It is because, again, I do agree. I think Jason Kidd, the longer this postseason went on, really, the longer the NBA Finals went on, the more it became obvious that Jason Kidd's premier strategy was, let's all help Luka get a triple-double. And once the other guys started getting attacked, like Joe Mazzulla attacked them in the series, Luka's triple-double wasn't enough anymore. So I think the problem you have is you built this team around Luka Doncic, and the primary piece that you gave him to partner up with him was a bucket scorer in Kyrie Irving, who was not scoring buckets in this series. And here's the reality. I like Luka Doncic a lot. We've talked about this a lot. I like Luka. Luka Doncic is a liability on half the basketball court. Luka Doncic led the NBA postseason in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. That's as good as you can ask. But outside of picking off a couple of passes at the pickup spot at half court, Luka Doncic was a defensive liability in this game. Second thing, and this is where I start to feel borderline inappropriate with this breakdown, but it is what it is, and I got to run with it. Luka Doncic he's going to have to hit the gym, dude. He's going to have to hit the gym. He's going to have to bulk up a little bit. He's going to have, not bulk up, but muscle up. He's going to have to muscle up a little bit. See, Nikola Jokic can kind of get away with being a little bit doughy, but it's because he's 7 feet tall, and you can't teach that, and because he's thick as hell. And when you're 7 feet tall and thick as hell, there's no power forwards pushing you around. None. Nobody could get up under that guy and move him. Luka Doncic is not 7 feet tall, and you can't teach him how to be. So I saw a number of times, specifically last night, a number of times where Boston, whether it was Drew Holiday or Jaylen Brown or whoever else, they were just muscling Luka off his line. And when they started to muscle Luka off his line, the Mavs offense didn't know what to do about it. Luka's got to hit the gym because this iteration of the Mavericks, as fun as they were, and they were fun, as interesting as they were, and they were interesting, as, I don't know, aggressive as they were in certain spots, and they were aggressive in certain spots, as whatever you want to call these Dallas Mavericks, as these Dallas Mavericks were this year. The reality is this team is not good enough to win an NBA Finals. It's not. It's not. And I heard somebody say last night, I wish I could remember who it was because I give them credit. But I heard somebody say last night, we spent all this time talking about the fact that the Boston Celtics had the easiest path to an NBA Finals maybe ever. And the answer is they really did. They really did. You didn't have Jimmy Buckets in series number 1. Made that a wash. They lost, oh God, who was it in round 2? Dame Lillard. Nope. Spider Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell in series number 2. Made it easier. Halliburton went down in series number 3. Made it easier. They played 3 of the, with all due respect, lesser NBA playoff teams of recent memory.
What word was that?
Lesser?
No, I don't. No, I don't believe that. Okay.
They played 3 of the lesser quality NBA playoff teams in recent memory. Certainly Cleveland is a 4 seed. And of all 3 teams that they played en route to the NBA Finals, they either outright did not have or lost their easily best player in the series, like early in the series, right? So yes, Boston had an easy path. But I look back at Dallas, and I think they kind of had the same, and maybe we all just kind of missed it. Because I go back and I look at the Clippers. The Clippers were fine. The Clippers were fine. They weren't great. They were fine. Then I go look at the Thunder. And I do think the Thunder are working on a pretty good little basketball team going on right now. Cha-ching, the Thunder Moneyball. I think they're working on a pretty good little team there. But it was a very young team this year. Very young team this year. And how many times have we heard the cliche, cliches are cliches for a reason, that in the NBA playoffs, experience matters a lot. The ability to handle the pressure matters a lot. Understanding circumstances that you find yourself in matters a lot. Oklahoma City didn't have any of that. Dallas did impress me with the win over the Timberwolves. But like I said, I think I've kind of gotten to the point where I really do look at Minnesota and go, they were put together to beat Denver. There are a number of teams that are built to beat a specific team because that specific team keeps giving everybody fits. Denver in the West. I also think there were some issues with Denver in this postseason that we were all kind of willing to forgive and overlook because they were the NBA finalists from last year, the NBA winners from last year. But I think that team was built to beat Denver. I think that team went up against Denver. I think that team went a full slog against Denver. And in doing all of that, I think Minnesota just flat out wore themselves out. Do they get credit for beating Denver? You're damn right they do. That's the reigning, defending, undisputed NBA champs. Of course, they get credit for it. But I also think looking at the reality of the series, I think Dallas caught a winded Denver. I think Dallas caught a winded Denver that found themselves beat up from the series before. Excuse me, Minnesota. That caught themselves beat up from the series before because Denver is a very physical basketball team, and they slipped by. So they come up against Boston, a team that, again, I do not think this can be understated. There were 0 games in this postseason where there was any sort of pressure on the Boston Celtics. 0, none, not a one. There was not a game where there was any pressure on them against Miami. There was not a game where there was any pressure on them against Cleveland. There was not a game where there was any pressure on them against Indiana. And there was not a game where there was any pressure on them against Dallas. They sparked out to a 3-0 victory or a 3-0 lead. Game 4, yet they lost it on the road. But even losing that game, was there pressure on the Celtics last night? No, there was not. There was not, because they're good enough to win anywhere. They've shown it. So, to me, this is going to go down as an NBA Finals that registers 2 ways. It registers as number 1, and I mean this, maybe the most impressive NBA Finals performance of recent memory. Number 2, the most boring. It was a boring Finals. There was no point where I felt threatened. I told Zoe yesterday, even after Dallas beat Boston by almost 40, actually almost 50 in game number 4, last night was over before it started. It was definitely over in the second quarter. There was never a point. I put it this way. I thought I was going to be watching the NBA Finals on the big screen and Monday Night Raw on the little screen. Nope. I ended up switching the NBA Finals to the little screen because there was never a point that I thought, oh, Dallas can do something here. Nope, there wasn't. There was never that spot. We're going to talk a lot about these 2 teams and the NBA Finals and the NBA postseason as the show rolls on. But I got a lot of NFL football to get for you today. I got a lot of college football to get for you today. We got some hockey to get to and more. Lonzo, Rob, and you on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
All right, so how do glow-in-the-dark golf balls work?
I think they just make glow-in-the-dark paint. I assume they just paint them with
Yeah, but it's all different colors. Maybe the camera is making them light up. You saw the Bryson DeChambeau drunk hitting golf balls, right?
He was on McAfee yesterday.
Yeah, I saw.
He said, I'm still a little sloppy.
Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America NA. Copyright 2024.
Can't wait to hear what's next on Wire to Wire with Cole and Diesel. Tell me what's coming up.
What is the worst mascot in every Division I football playing conference? It'll be like the mascot Hunger Games live on the Fan Upstate. We'll be joined by the new baseball coach at USC Upstate, Kane Sweeney. And could you date a pro female athlete? That and more on the next Wire to Wire. Diesel and Cole Bryson really bring it on Wire to Wire.
Turn it on and leave it on.
Afternoons 3 to 7 on the Fan Upstate.
I think it depends on what sport because both of them are a little bit shorter. And I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, guys, I mean, you know.
Sorry, I just started picturing Cole Bryson dating a WNBA player, and it was the funniest thing. in my head.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, if you can, you know,
I just
have
saw
to stand on the box at some points of the night.
Cole walking in with Cam Brink into a WNBA game with her towering over him. You know,
A lot of head patting.
image of Diesel walking around with an Olympic gymnast
Nah.
trying to do his best to be a civilized person. You know,
Well, who wouldn't want to do that? But no, he'd be hanging out with an MMA girl.
oh for sure, but that's not funny in my head.
Okay,
You know?
all right.
Cole getting head taps from Cam Brink is the funniest thing I've thought of so far this morning. Well, you thought of and
Yes.
put it in my head.
Oh yeah, it was me.
Yeah.
I'll take credit for that.
Let me let's get into some stuff here. We got a lot. We're going to talk about the NBA Finals throughout the show today. Luka Doncic. I'd like to talk about some of the individual players from this series. Let me start with this. I'm actually going to circle back around to Luka Doncic. I think the NBA might have a problem. And I think that problem may be the Boston Celtics because this team's coming back next year. Same team's running it back next year. Jason Tatum had a remarkably, unimpressive postseason.
A team can be built to beat the Celtics.
I don't disagree. Here's the problem. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not that they're in the East. I mean, the philosophy of if you build a team to beat a team, you're going to get beat by other teams. And the problem is the Celtics, number one, are built to beat everybody. They are. And I think this was brought to light as the postseason rolled on. The Boston Celtics are, and this was, remember, go back. Yes, I did say Mavericks in 6 or 7. But I would also like to point out that I said if the Boston Celtics are going to win this series, they will win this series for one reason and one reason alone. Do you remember what it was? Don't worry, I'll tell you. It was because the Boston Celtics might be the deepest team in the NBA. Not only are they the deepest team in the NBA, but due to some fortuitous forethought from the Boston Celtics, they are the deepest team in the NBA, and they are led by a couple of genuine superstars in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown won the Finals MVP for a reason. Jason Tatum had some spots where folks started looking and going, where's the offense from Agent Zero? Where's the offense from number 0? Where's the offense from Jay Haytay? And the answer is it's everywhere except on the points category. It's everywhere except in the points column. The offense was in the assist. The offense was in the rebounds. The offense was in the distraction. This is something that's happened a couple of times in the NBA Finals. When the Warriors won the NBA Finals in, oh gosh, what year was it? No, I got her. 2016? Let's see. Steph won it in 2022. KD won it in 17 and 18. Andre Iguodala, 2015. That's what I'm thinking of. It's a long time ago. But if you go back to 2015, Andre Iguodala won the NBA MVP for the finals. No one watching that series has any thought that Andre Iguodala was the best player on the floor or even the most important. But if you go back and you look at that 2015 season and that 2015 finals, the reason Andre Iguodala won that finals was because Steph Curry was getting double teamed when he didn't have the basketball. Steph Curry had guys closing him out the minute he thought about the basketball. Guys were up in the grill of Steph Curry. And what it was doing was opening up the floor for other guys. And in that season in 2015, Andre Iguodala happened to be the guy that was knocking down the shots when he was getting them wide open time after time after time after time after time. Because the thought there was that if you're going to beat us, you're going to have somebody beat us that's not Steph Curry. But Steph Curry, if you gave him a second, that was the finals over the Cavs. If you gave Steph Curry even a step in 2015, he was going to beat you, either off the dribble.
Yeah, but you also gave him Kevin Durant. That's why. You
did. I'm not disagreeing. But Steph Curry was getting locked down in that NBA Finals. Was getting locked down in that NBA Finals. And because he was getting locked down in that NBA Finals, and because the second thought there was to get away from Steph Curry, they started having to go find other guys. They started to they had to find other guys because it was lockdown Steph Curry. In fact, just because I'm curious, let's go look at the final game of that series, Game 6. Game 6 of that series, Steph Curry had 25. Andre Iguodala had 25. Andre Iguodala had 20 shots. By the way, just because my head was spinning, Durant wasn't on that team yet in 2015. That team, unless he just wasn't playing, but I don't think he was, that team was Curry, Draymond, Iguodala, Harrison Barnes, Klay Thompson. They had Livingston, Barbosa, Ezeli, Lee, Bogut, McAdoo, Rush, and Spites on the bench. So in that series, the thought was, we ain't worried about Draymond. No one's ever been worried about offensive Draymond.
Then Cleveland won one. Then they won one. Was that what it was?
No, I got to go back and look because my 2015 was Golden State. Then it was Cleveland. LeBron won the MVP. Then Golden State went back-to-back in 17 and 18. Kevin Durant won the NBA MVP, the Finals MVP, both of those seasons. The year after that was Kawhi and the Raptors. The year after that was the bubble with LeBron and the Lakers. So in that series, the thought was lock down Steph Curry. The thought was if somebody's going to beat us, it's going to have to be somebody else. We're not worried about Klay Thompson. He had 5 points in that last game. Certainly not worried about Harrison Barnes. He had 9 in that last game. We're not worried about Draymond. 16 in Game 6. And I could be wrong because I didn't look up every box, but I think that was the most points he scored in any game in that finals. So we're going to take Steph away from you, and somebody else has got to do it. And that somebody else ended up being Andre Iguodala. But my question is, did Andre Iguodala win that MVP because Andre Iguodala was the best player on the floor for 6 games? Or did Iguodala win that MVP because Steph Curry was facing a double team the second he crossed half court every single game, and Iguodala was just the guy who took advantage of space? The answer to me is the second. Jason Tatum was the best basketball player on that floor, and he demanded the attention even when the points weren't showing up, and Jaylen Brown took full advantage of that, as he should have, because Jaylen Brown was the second best basketball player on the Boston Celtics in this go. Now, Tatum last night did have one of his better offensive games in the series, had 31 points to Jaylen's 21, but he also had 8 boards. He had 11 assists in this game. He was 2 boards away from a triple-double in an NBA Finals clincher. The problem the rest of the league has here is that you can try to build a team to beat to beat Boston. It will not be as easy as it is to build a team to beat Denver. Denver is a team that you can build to beat them, as Minnesota did. I don't think you can do it with Boston. I think Boston's got enough variety, and I think they've got enough depth. That is something that Denver does not have. Denver does not have the depth that Boston does. Neither did Dallas, and that's why the Mavs lost this series. It was not necessarily even as bad as Kyrie was in the series. To me, it wasn't really the fact that the starters couldn't keep up with Boston's starters. It was once you started getting later into games, and once you started needing other guys to pick up Luka, those guys weren't there. Those guys did not exist. You never got it out of Lively. You never got it out of Gafford. PJ Washington had 4 points in this game. Go back to the series that brought Dallas here. PJ Washington was a critical factor in those series. But once he came up against the team that had actual dudes out there on the wing, PJ Washington disappeared. 4 points in an elimination game is not going to get it, my man. It's just not. So you can try to build a team to beat the Boston Celtics. I just think Boston's too deep for that. Somebody's going to have to try to build a roster that matches up with them. And bad luck for you, there ain't a lot of Drew Holidays and Derek Whites floating around out there that know their role, play complementary basketball, and also do it as well as anybody else that is a star. Let's take a break. We're back after this. We'll get away from some basketball. We'll come back to it later in the show. Your thoughts are welcome. The Renewal by Andersen of the Carolinas fan phone is open at 844-326-3663. The text line is open at 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. We'll read them on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
Up to the minute upstate traffic. The Cordell and Cordell construction cam shows movement southbound 85 between 45 White Horse and I-185. They are scheduled to pick this up at 7 o'clock. Right now, 2 lanes are closed and traffic is about 2 miles. Northbound 85 between mile markers 45 and 47 has the right lane closed. It should be going away any minute. From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Traffic Center, I'm Bill Brooks on the Fan Upstate.
Getting quality employees.
The Fan Upstate.
Is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter.
Kyrie was just not good enough. Yup. Tony Parker's another good one. I should have thought about that one. Tony Parker's another good one, Chris. The Spurs, to me, are a good model for what Dallas should try to be around Luka. What the Spurs did for Tim Duncan, Dallas should do for Luka. The problem is how many of those Tony Parkers and Manu Ginobili's are out there. Also, I loved Manu Ginobili.
The commercial with he and Tony Parker was great.
Yep.
I don't even remember what it was for. I think it was like a phone company or something. But
That's why we teamed up to give MVP's Pro Rewards members 10 times points when Messi makes an assist during CONMEBOL Copa America USA 2024. Activate this offer starting June 20th. So when Messi assists, you score. Shop the day after an assist to earn those extra points. Not an MVP's Pro Rewards member? Join today.
As someone that is also missing half of his front tooth, Nolan, I'm offended on his behalf.
This is the Rob Brown Show with Lonzo.
Dan Wetzel has a column up on Yahoo Sports right now. The headline posted yesterday afternoon is the NASCARification of college sports. It's on the way, whether fans like it or not. Bump, bump. Oh, wait. Oh, I don't have my thing open. I don't have my sounder open yet. That was a perfect bump, bump, bump spot. And I blew it. That's on me. You have my most sincere and entire apologies for that failure as a host. I will get it corrected. There it is. Just took it. Sometimes you just got to build up. It's the anticipation, that makes the payoff worth it. What's opens his column by saying the Big 12 Conference.
Did it make it worth it?
I don't know. I don't know if I don't quite know how to answer that, to be honest.
A little bit. It did a little bit. Wetzel opens his editorial by saying, and I quote, the Big 12 Conference might become the All-State 12. That traditional school logo painted at the 50-yard line of your favorite stadium might become a Merrill Lynch symbol. Oh, and the stadium named after an alum may become Crypto.com Field. Your university's iconic basketball jersey? Expect some patches, if not a complete redesign, featuring corporations big and small, from Chevy trucks to the local campus pizza joint. The NASCARification of college athletics is coming quickly as conferences and schools hunt for additional revenue to share with student athletes while maintaining competitive investment in programs or even just keeping smaller teams alive. It's a scramble for money, one major conference commissioner said Monday. Everything is going to be for sale, end quote. I appreciate what is being said here by Dan Wetzel. And I understand that that is a negative to most of you.
Is it though? I mean, I think things being commercialized by now should be the norm to the degree where you're not surprised anymore. And maybe it bothers you a little bit, but get over it.
So I will acknowledge that while I don't care because of what Lonzo just said, I'm just at a point in my life that I recognize there's an ad going everywhere. Okay. I went home not terribly long ago, back to the beautiful beaches of Destin, Florida. Some of y'all know about Destin, Florida. It has become, over the last decade or so, one of the most traveled to continental United States beaches in America. That's my hometown.
You about to redo I went back to Ohio except I went back to Destin?
No, I don't want anyone else knowing about Destin.
Yeah, but everyone knows.
I know.
Even Charlie James on our brother station WRD, when he went on vacation, he went to Destin.
Yeah.
Everyone goes, we have had listeners. That's where they go.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest places on earth. I love Destin, Florida. That is where I grew up. Okay. I went back to Destin, Florida not terribly long ago. And when I did, I went and met a few members of the old running crew at the beach. Because, the best bars are on the beach. So we all went and gathered at one of my favorite little bars on the beach. Because as you all know, Rob Brown, big Bahama Mama guy. So I went to go meet the fellas.
Let's talk about the drink, not.
You don't know me.
I don't.
You don't know me.
I don't. But
went to go meet at one of my old favorite spots, a little bar called the Whale's Tail, to get me a Bahama Mama out on the beach, and I did. And as I sat there sipping that wonderful tropical concoction and looking out at the sugar white sands and the emerald green water, a boat came into view a few 100, 200, 300 yards off to my right. And as the boat got closer and closer, I thought to myself, this is very interesting. It appears to be a large fishing vessel of some type. Now, you're not supposed to fish that close to the beach because of the whole there being people there thing. And it just kept getting close. But it was going real slow. And not even like dragging nets slow. Because we don't really drag nets around Destin. That's not how you fish the Gulf of Mexico. And as it got closer, I came to the realization that this was a retrofitted boat. It was an old big-time fishing boat, like one of those ones you saw in, what was that George Clooney movie, Perfect Storm? Was that the one? It was like one of those kind of boats.
George Clooney, after Batman, forget him.
And as this boat got closer, and I started seeing, and not head-on down the beach, but inside profile, I came to the realization that there was about a 27,000-foot LED screen on the back of this boat. And what was on that gigantic LED screen, Lonzo? Advertisements for local realtors.
I was waiting for you to say Bob's Used Cars.
For Bob's Used Cars. Just a bunch of advertisements. And the reason I do now have, not now, the reason I do have some sympathy for college football fans that are struggling to accept this is because in that moment, I had the same emotion. I thought to myself, this is supposed to be the most relaxing place that I can be. I am sipping a Bahama Mama on the sugar white sands, facing the emerald green water, basking in the sun. This is supposed to be the one moment in my life where everything is relaxing and non-distracting, and I should be able to just slip into my inner Jimmy Buffett while I sit here.
Is that what the boat was playing?
And that's pretty much what happened.
Is that what the boat was playing?
Pretty much.
Or did the boat just have no sound? It was just a boat floating out in the ocean that you didn't have to look at.
There was no sound, but you could not look at it because it was a big ass fishing boat. I'm not talking about like a little 3-man trawler. I mean, it was a big old fishing boat that required like a crew of 6 or 7 with a screen on the back. Have you been to there's a I'm trying to think of like you know what it was? It was a stadium jumbotron on a boat. Okay?
Okay.
So it's not like I could go, I'm going to look over there until it gets here, and then when it goes over there, I'm going to look over there because it's the beach. All right?
You could like turned around and turned your back to the ocean and enjoyed your drink and talked to your buddies and all that
Guys,
stuff.
go to the beach and then look back at the highway. That's how we do it. I'm at the beach to enjoy the beach. I appreciate Lonzo's desire to play the role of the other side of this argument.
I'm just saying it didn't hurt you, and I get what you're saying, but you didn't have to look at. I know you said I can go an entire show without looking at you. I'm not looking at you now. So I mean, you could just. I mean, if you're enjoying the company that you're at, you're enjoying the sand in your toes.
No. See, because
you
here's
don't
the
have
other
to
thing.
look at the boat.
If I go to the beach, I go to the beach for the beach. All right. It's wonderful if I'm with people that I know and that I love, but I am at the beach to sit and lose myself in the waves. You're not a water guy, at least not to the level I am. You wouldn't get it. All right. I'm going to be a beach elitist here.
I mean, just because you were born on the beach doesn't mean that I don't feel the call of the ocean when I get near it, when I smell it. Because I think I appreciate the ocean more than you do.
No, you
because I didn't see it for 30-something years of my life. And then I finally saw it. And this is what happens to all people from Ohio or Michigan. They see the ocean and they have to live near it. And so they move south. There's just I can't explain the feeling. I'm looking forward to going back to the beach this year and just sitting on the balcony and reading the book while the ocean is in the distance.
And now let's imagine that as you sit there and read your book and enjoy the lovely sights and sound of the ocean, a big old fishing boat trawling across goes by from James Jameson Realtors.
And I'm probably going to say, I haven't ate there yet because it's probably going to be advertised in a restaurant on the beach, I'm guessing. And maybe I'll try that out. More than likely, if it doesn't make noise, it's not going to bother me.
All right, well, good for you. I'm very jealous of that fact. But I want to sit and enjoy my sand and my water and my drink and just be at one with nature and relax. For those of you that are mountain folk, imagine that you went on your favorite hike. You go up to the top of Harris Mountain. Maybe you will go up to the Blue Ridge, and imagine you spend a lovely day walking up to the top. I'll tell you where I love to go to the top of Devil's Courthouse. It has grown to be one of my favorite places in the area. I like driving up there by myself, getting out of the car by myself, walking to the top of Devil's Courthouse, sitting at the top, looking out at the rest of the Blue Ridge. It is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been on planet Earth. And now imagine that right there in the middle of your favorite trail top, somebody puts a big ass billboard just right in the middle of the nature.
I don't know where that is, but the fact that you want to go there alone does not surprise me.
It's a beautiful place. All right. It's a wonderful place up on the Blue Ridge. It's like an hour and 10 minutes north of my house. And I will drive there solo because it is one of the most peaceful places I have ever been on the planet. I love it. No, imagine
nobody else wants to go to the mountains to commune with the devil.
It is a wonderful place, and I promise you, if somebody ever popped a billboard up at the top of it, I would lose my bleep.
See, now I got to look it up because I'm curious why it's called the Devil's Courthouse.
I don't know. I don't care. It's an amazing place. So, all of that being said, I absolutely have sympathy for college football folk who are a little bit bummed out by the fact that a place that is supposed to be your Serenity Now moment. Saturday morning, 11 a.m., you turn on the television, you watch your game day, you get through all their stuff, and then it's kickoff. And when the ball gets kicked off, when toe meets leather, you are supposed to be able to put the care and concerns and considerations of the world away for a few minutes and not have to worry about your insurance rates or your phone bill going up or your streaming going down or yada, yada, yada. I want to, as every human does, just get lost in the moment, get lost in the environment, get lost in the surroundings and these advertisements as they always are. kind of detract from that a little bit, right? So I have sympathy and I get it, but it doesn't matter anymore.
Doesn't matter anymore. By the way, Devil's Courthouse in Cherokee lore, this cave is the private dancing chamber and dwelling place of the slant-eyed giant Judicula.
Sweet. I haven't seen him yet. Been there a lot.
I'm surprised you haven't.
Haven't bumped into him
Would
yet.
you dance with Judicula?
Would you dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Joker. Jack Nicholson. College athletics, my dudes and my dudettes, has always, and I lean heavily on the all in always been a money-driven game. It's
What
just
is the
that-
percentage? What is the percentage of college football fans that go, that's it? It's commercialized to the point where I can't watch the product anymore. It's obviously that patch on that guy's shoulder pads is affecting how he's playing. He's weighted down just like a couple ounces on. It's causing his right shoulder to dip, and that defensive lineman is getting in every time and sacking my quarterback. That's it. I'm done.
You are
It's such a heavy patch.
You are absolutely focusing on what is not the focus. And I actually intend to answer that question. Because I don't think anybody is going to say, oh, the ads are changing the game. The ads will not change the game.
That was a point, Rob.
But
I was
much
being
like,
sarcastic.
I know you were, much like the boat going across my field of vision at the beach, does it change the sand? No. Does it change the water? No. Does it change the nature? No. Does it change the sights or the sounds and the smell? Yes. Well, it changes the sight and to some degree the sound, because now there's a big old diesel engine that overpowers the sound of the waves lapping gently upon the sugar white sands. And yeah, that's kind of a bummer. So I get where you are coming from. But I also would make the point that for years, this sport has been based upon revenue chasing. For years, your schools have always catered not to you, individual game ticket purchaser. Your schools have always catered towards the people who have more money to give. I know that because I am watching stadiums around the country. This just happened in Tallahassee, Florida, for instance. Florida State just took out a few thousand regular single ticket seat games from Doak Campbell Stadium. And they have replaced it with a big open booster-only plaza, where if you want to get to that, you got to come off a few GER every year to the university. And in doing so, they have decreased the number of people who can come to a game. They have increased the number of people who can come to a game if and only if they give a bleep load of money to the school, and in doing so, have driven up the cost of every other ticket to get into the building. Yet I did not hear a vast outcry from anybody about that one. The point here is, yes, there likely is a slight NASCARification of college football, Dan Wetzel. I don't believe that it is going to be like NASCAR fire suits busy on the uniforms. But do you think schools are putting down that big corporate logo on the 20 and the 20? You're damn right they will. Do I think they might paint one on somewhere else on the sidelines? You're damn right they will. Do I think there will be shoulder patches? You're damn right I do. Here's the thing. NASCAR has been like that for years. And no one cares anymore. No one cares. Some of the coolest paint jobs are now covered up by corporate logos. Nobody cares anymore because that's just the way it is. Things will always be the saying. That's just the way it is. Oh, yeah. The way it is that at the end of every hour, we do a sports flash. Usually I pimp up Lonzo there, but I screwed the pooch.
I was watching some sporting event and I saw a Kroger logo and I went, you know what? I used to shop there. The Atlanta Braves took a 2-1 win over the Detroit Tigers yesterday. Max Fried gave up 1 run and 4 hits in 5.1 innings, while Daysball Hernandez earned his first win in his 4th appearance for Atlanta. The Braves' winning run came in the bottom of the 8th on an Ozzie Albies solo shot. In the NHL Finals, the Florida Panthers will attempt to win the Stanley Cup tonight at 8. and well, it'll take them a little bit longer than that. They're not going to win it instantly, and need just one more win to put away the Edmonton Oilers. Florida enters the contest as slight favorites. Make sure you tune in this afternoon from 3 to 7 p.m. for a brand new local show, Wire to Wire. Cole Bryson and Diesel get you up to date on the latest local and national sports news. Great guests, great debates, and a whole lot of fun. And it's all Wire to Wire. Where's the jam cam? Roger? It's not Roger. Sorry, Billy. Just remind me of Roger, that's why.
Have you been wanting to find the secret to losing weight and getting healthy the natural way without drugs or injections? Hi, this is Dr. Elliot Hirschman with New Life Weight Loss, and we know the secret to losing a half a pound to a pound of fat every day, naturally, safely, and effectively, without counting points or calories. No exercising, no prepackaged meals, no drugs, no surgery. Go to mynewlifeweightloss.com now. Many patients lose 20 to 30 pounds in about a month or two. That's up to a pound per day. For your free consultation, call 864-719-2550 or go to mynewlifeweightloss.com.
Yes, they are, Yates. 18th time. Best team in the league. It was not a question. The best team won this year.
This is the story of the week. As Kate maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Granger supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Look around. You can buy cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car right in your tail. Or the tailgate right now. All those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to the guys at the same time? Well, multitasking pro. Cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get an engine, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Missed a jaw-dropping moment? No worries.
Odyssey app makes it easy.
With Rewind, you can relive big moments from Rob Brown, Jim Rome, and
Wire to Wire with Cole Bryson and Diesel.
just hit Rewind with the Odyssey app on the Fan Upstate. Your morning jolt of sports. It's the Rob Brown Show.
Damian Priest, WWE World Heavyweight Champion, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
So you went from Indies to NXT to now being on the main roster. Crowd size moves up, and up. What's that like, the transition from NXT to WrestleMania?
Man, yeah, when I started in the Indies, I mean, I performed in front of like 5 people for a hot dog and a handshake. You know what I mean? And then from there to go to NXT, and our TV studio setting was like 200 people, and it was loud, and I was like, oh man, I made it. And now I just finished winning the world title for more than 70,000 people live in Philadelphia. I mean, it's crazy. You know what I mean? To go from one end of the spectrum to the other, it's humbling.
Oh, man.
It's news. The Rob Brown Show, now morning 6 to 10 on the Fan.
The Fan Upstate. WORD Spartanburg.
WPCH Treacle, the official sports voice of the Upstate Fan.
Check this out.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown radio program is underway. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate Spectacular to have you along with us. Us being, of course, myself, Rob Brown, on the other side of the metaphorical glass. He is the great one, the Alpha and the Omega of the Fan Upstate, the Sultan of Swag, the Professor of Perfection, the Content Cash Cow, the Wizard of Wave. Lonzo is in the building as well.
I've decided I'm just going to do this with my eyes every time you look over here. Just so it freaks you out.
Stare around the room as if you are a man possessed. Literally.
No one can roll their eyes like I can.
Sarcasm, the, of course, primary language of this radio
Lonzo is a superstar.
There it is. There it is. The only man I know that has a clip about himself.
Nobody's perfect, but I am very, very close.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
Ouch. Okay. All right. Well, remind me not to gas up Lonzo anymore. NBA champs.
Man, you're slow. You're slow on the trigger. I mean, come on.
I'm not.
It's 7 a.m. People are expecting something. What you doing?
I'll tell you what I'm doing.
Winning.
See, that's how you just like.
What I am doing is what we do every morning at 7:02 in the AM portion of the day. When folks are on their way to the office. When folks are getting ready to get logged in for the 8 to 5. When folks are getting ready to grind and make them dollar bills, y'all. We get you set up so that you know what you're going to talk about and how you're going to talk about it in the land of sports. We tell you the top 3 sports stories every morning at this time when we do what we're doing now, the water cooler cheat sheet.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
whatever.
Even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports this lovely, lovely upstate Tuesday morning. When you do, these will be the things that you are talking about. Let us begin with item number 1. Your NBA champions for the 2023-2024 season are the Boston Celtics. 106-88 winners last night. They defeat the Dallas Mavericks 4-1 in the NBA Finals. Jason Tatum arrived back on the scene last night, became the 5th player in NBA history with 30, 11, and 8 in an NBA Finals elimination game, had 31 points, 11 assists, and 8 boards on the night. Jaylen Brown, 21 points on 7 of 23 shooting, 2 of 9 from deep. He also pitched in 8 rebounds and 6 assists. Jaylen Brown would go on to be named your NBA Finals MVP, taking home a little extra hardware last night with the Bill Russell Trophy in his hands. Jason Tatum was the guy that was expected to be the guy. Everybody thought Jason Tatum was going to be the one who our eyes were on. He averaged 20.8, 5.4, and 5 throughout the series, shot 44% from the field against the Dallas Mavericks. Did Jaylen Brown, the number 3 overall draft pick of 2016. averaged 23.5 per game this season, was an all-star for the third time. The 27-year-old just finished the first year of a 5-year, $286 million deal with the Celtics, and it paid off in year number 1. The Celtics as a team last night shot 42.7% from the floor, 33 1/3 from behind the arc, 17 of 20 from the stripe, committed just 7 turnovers in the game, and ended with 25 assists on the night. The Mavs, on the other hand, were led, shockingly, I know, by Luka Doncic, who had 28 on 12 of 25 from the floor and 2 of 9 from deep. They got just 15 from Kyrie Irving on 5 of 16 from the floor. No other C had more than 14. They got that 14 in 22 minutes from Josh Green off the bench. The other starters, Jones had 10, Gafford had 6, PJ Washington had 4. They disappeared down the stretch, and Luka just could not get it done on his own last night. The Boston Celtics, as I said, on our live stream during the break, which you can find at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, by searching The Fan Upstate or The Rob Brown Show on YouTube, or by searching the Rob Brown Show on Twitch. I said it during the break. I'll say it again now. This is a year in which the best team very clearly became your champions. The Boston Celtics have built something very special in this team. There have been a lot of good teams that have won titles. It is not always the best team that wins the NBA championship. It is sometimes the best team, but not a special team that won the Boston Celtics, that won the NBA title. The Boston Celtics were that team this year. There was something special about this team. I think this team put together a starting 5 that had exceptional chemistry, and I think they showed that throughout the postseason. I do think the Celtics had the easiest path that any champion has had to an NBA Finals in a very long time, but they never struggled. There was never a point through an easy path to the finals where Boston looked like anything other than the best team in the NBA. And this series proved that. This series proved that. I think this was, I will even include Dallas in this. As somebody who picked Dallas to win this series, I did so out of emotion. I did so out of, I'm tired of doubting this team and looking silly. I shan't again. Instead, I didn't doubt this team, and I look silly for it. But I also, after game 1, said to Lonzo, this series is over. This series is a wash. Boston is just that much better than Dallas. The Boston Celtics, I think, had the easiest NBA Finals and playoff run of any champion in recent memory. From series number 1 against a Jimmy Butler-less Miami, to series number 2 against the Cleveland Cavaliers team that lost Spida Mitchell, to series number 3 against an outmanned young Pacers team that lost Tyrese Halliburton, to the Dallas Mavericks, a team that, in retrospect, probably was not good enough to be playing for an NBA Finals. The C's had the easiest run to a Larry O'Brien of any team in recent memory, and it was never in question. They never struggled. They never put their backs against the wall. They never got knocked around. They just beat the hell out of everybody they were supposed to beat the hell out of. And I got news for you. They are already the Vegas favorites to run it back and do it again next year, and I don't think it's a bad bet. We'll talk more about the NBA Finals as the show progresses. Let us get to item number 2. You may not have heard a lot about it so far, and I think a good part of the reason is because nobody really seems to know what it's going to look like, how it's going to shape up. But there is a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit playing out right now, a class action lawsuit against the National Football League. It is a trial that is expected to last 3 weeks or more. and it is a trial that is set to determine whether the NFL allowed direct TV from 2012 to 2022 to sell NFL broadcasts to out-of-market games at an inflated rate. That is to say, if you were out of the market, you had to pay more money than you did in market, and you had to pay more money than you would have in market because the NFL, by utilizing Sunday Ticket and by only granting rights to Sunday Ticket exclusively to DirecTV, effectively created a world where the NFL, the NFL and DirecTV were able to basically charge whatever they wanted, basically arguing that this is a antitrust violation. Yesterday, Roger Goodell testified in this case. And in his testimony, Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the National Football League, made the argument that the NFL's broadcast falling under the NFL's jurisdiction should also fall under the NFL's antitrust exemptions. The NFL, as do most of the professional sporting leagues, are granted special exemptions from antitrust laws that are not granted to most other businesses. Roger Goodell argued that NFL broadcasts are a premium broadcast. That is to say, much like HBO, for instance, can air House of the Dragon. It is their premium broadcast. If you want it, you have to get it through HBO. As it is theirs, they have the right to do with it and charge for it what they wish. If they want to bump up HBO subscription cost because House of the Dragon Season 2 is airing on Sunday nights moving forward, they have the right to do so. The argument in this class action lawsuit is that while the NFL does have class action protection and antitrust protections that are in place, their broadcast should not be covered by that. Their broadcast should not be covered up by antitrust exemptions, meaning that their broadcast, which should be considered a public service effectively, it should be obligated that they are bidded out. It should be obligated that other services have the right to make a play for the NFL. Why do I keep doing that? The NFL's Sunday Ticket package, which would therefore obviously create a world where someone else may come up with a model that would drop the price of Sunday Ticket and give access to out-of-market games to more fans. That's what the lawsuit says. Is it going to be successful? I honestly have no idea. I spent about half an hour this morning reading over Roger's testimony from yesterday, reading and watching the lawsuit and legal breakdowns from a number of lawyer resources, YouTube channels, etc., that I like and trust and enjoy. And what I've got is that nobody really seems to know. Nobody really seems to know if there is anybody that is going to be able to successfully argue that an NFL broadcast should be considered more of a public right and force the NFL to open it up for bidding, to force the NFL to open their broadcast up to competition. However, the interesting factor is that from this lawsuit, we learned that ESPN, not but a couple of years ago, made a proposal to the NFL. The proposal was that instead of having to pay the hundreds of dollars that it costs for Sunday Ticket, the proposal was that fans would be able to buy a subscription just for their team. That subscription would go for the neighborhood of $70. And for that $70, you would gain access to every broadcast of your team.
Take my money now.
Exactly what I said. Exactly what I said. I have got to fight tooth and nail to find Saints games out of market on Sundays. I've got to fight. I got to find a bar to go to that's got the ticket. I got to find a buddy who's got the ticket, or I got to come off the ticket for myself. It's a fight. If you are telling me, they said $70 a game. Lance, I'll tell you right now, I'd do $170. $10 a game? Yep, good with me. I'd do $170 to pay $10 a game to make sure that I don't have to go out and about to watch Saints games if that was an option.
Especially if you're paying $9.99 a month.
Yes.
I mean, because you're already doing that on a bunch of other things.
Yep.
Why not?
I could drop some other spots elsewhere and pick this up and be perfectly happy. Because they turned that down, that is going to be an argument. You are getting opportunities, you are getting options that would still make you your money, but would also allow fans easier access to watch their games. Is that a good enough argument to make something happen? I don't know, but we'll find out. Finally, item number 3. We talked yesterday at length about the 124th U.S. Open, which took place at Pinehurst #2 this weekend. Your winner, Live Tour golfer Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson DeChambeau was able to knock off Rory McIlroy, mainly because Rory McIlroy opened up the door with a pretty stellar all-time choke job on the final round on Sunday. Bryson DeChambeau saw the door was open, and he walked through it. Bryson DeChambeau is one of the better American golfers on planet Earth right now. And Bryson DeChambeau will not be representing the United States Olympics team. He will not be headed to Paris to play golf for the red, white, and blue. Why, you might ask? The answer is because he is on the Live Tour. See, playing on the Live Tour, Bryson DeChambeau cannot get world golf ranking points. That is something that is reserved for the PGA Tour and some of the other professional tours internationally. But because the Live Tour plays under their team format, plays a different style of golf, he can't get those points. And the U.S. golf team is predicated and determined by the golf points that you have. So Bryson DeChambeau said, quote, hopefully sooner rather than later we figure that out so this great game of golf, we can get past all of that and move forward and show how awesome the sport actually is around the world. The top 15 golfers in the OWGR after the third major championship of the year are eligible for the Olympics, though each country can only send a maximum of 4. The U.S., for example, has 9 golfers currently ranked inside the top 15. From there, the 60-man field will be made up of the top 2 eligible golfers per country, as long as that country doesn't have 2 golfers inside the top 15. Right now, we have top-ranked Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Wyndham Clark, and Colin Morikawa. Do not send me a single text or phone call or email or anything else that says that Colin Morikawa or Wyndham Clark should be going to the Olympics over Bryson DeChambeau. That being said, we're going to talk about this coming up in a minute. Bryson DeChambeau made a choice. Bryson DeChambeau decided to take that money from Saudi Arabia, knowing full well that this was not just a probability, that it was a definite outcome. So I don't really have any sympathy for a guy that I've actually grown to like in Bryson DeChambeau. What I do have, unfortunately, is a bit of a bummed out feeling that a guy who is having maybe the best year of any professional golfer not named Scotty Scheffler will not be eligible to carry the Stars and Stripes to Paris. That's kind of a bummer. We'll talk more about that later in the show. We got a lot to get to. The Rob Brown Show rolls on after this. It is the Fan Upstate.
QC.
All right, guys, quick live, and we're back. Do me a favor. Stay right there. BRB.
Rob. New life in the next break.
10-4. Choices have consequences, man. Choices have consequences. It is one of the most important lessons that we must learn in this life. Choices have consequences. I talked at length yesterday about the redemption arc of Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson DeChambeau has turned the public opinion of Bryson DeChambeau around like a lot. Bryson DeChambeau has not just become a two-time U.S. Open champion by way of beating Rory McIlroy and the field this past Sunday at Pinehurst. Bryson DeChambeau has also been working off the golf course to fix the image of Bryson DeChambeau, an image that even a couple of years ago was not good. And Bryson DeChambeau has hit on a formula that works. Now, there are some people that are asking if it is genuine or not, and I will tell you, I got a hard time saying it's not. I have watched over the past week a bunch of Bryson's old YouTube videos, a YouTube channel he runs, by the way, that is set to outgain the number of followers that the PGA Tour's YouTube channel has right now. Bryson DeChambeau has found a wonderful crossover audience. Remember, I've told you the story many, many times about the rise of Eldrick Tiger Woods. Rob Brown grew up not as a big golf guy, but it was always kind of in my life, right? I was always kind of around it. My dad played. He was a businessman. Business gets done on the golf course, yada, yada, yada. I was always kind of around it. And I learned to love golf after high school, really after college, to be honest. I dabbled in it as a kid, never really played it that much. I just kind of, would go out to the range and hit a driver. Fun. After college, when the ability to play sports kind of went away, right? Like you can join a rec beer league, but there wasn't really any place for me to go play competitive sports anymore. I started playing golf. And in my first couple of years in radio, during lunch breaks, I would leave my first radio station. I would drive 2-3 minutes down the road, and I would go to the local muni course, and I would hit golf balls or maybe sneak in 3 holes during a lunch break, whatever the case might be. And during the rise of Eldrick Tiger Woods, from, oh, that guy's good, to, oh, we all want to be him, I watched the demographics of the game shift a little bit. The same muni that I would go to, which was primarily inhabited by older white guys, suddenly saw a bunch of young people out there, suddenly saw a bunch of Black and Asian teenagers and kids out there learning the game. It became cool to play golf. Bryson DeChambeau, right now, is the only guy golf has that is even close to doing that. I am watching his YouTube channel fly. I am watching young cats that are starting to be interested, because Bryson isn't doing what most golfers do and just posting highlights or lessons or suggestions or whatever. Bryson's going out and he's jumping on that YouTube channel and he's doing fun stuff, right? I told you yesterday about a couple that are on his front page right now. He's going out there and he's buying the cheapest set of golf clubs that you can buy off of Amazon and seeing if he can go out there and break par with them. He brought in have you ever seen these guys that do the long ball drive championships, Lonzo? You ever seen these cats?
Yes.
If I'm going to get you into golf and you're a football guy, that's how I'm going to do it, right? These guys take these long drivers and they hit the ball 500 yards. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Bryson took one of those guys out to play golf with him. And he let that guy hit all of the drives, and then he played all the rest to see if they could break 50 if you could drive every par 4 in the course.
Did they?
I haven't finished it yet.
Oh, okay.
Kind of a long video. I think they set the pace that was good enough early, but as most guys will tell you in the world of golf, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Finishing those last 3 or 4 holes once the fatigue has set in is kind of where golf gets played. That's why Rory broke down on Sunday. But if you wanted to find out, you could go to Bryson DeChambeau's YouTube channel and watch it. The point is, these are the kind of things that you do to get people into golf that maybe aren't really super into golf, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, okay, well, if that's that much fun, the game itself might be pretty fun. Yada, 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 you grow the game. On top of all that, Bryson DeChambeau is having an absolute year right now. He has been, if I recall correctly, top 10 in all 3 majors played so far. Got a second place in one, got a win in one. Bryson DeChambeau is having arguably, the best year of any American playing golf, not named Scotty Scheffler. And Bryson DeChambeau can't go play in the Olympics. And no one is going to tell me, at least no one that I would take seriously, that Wyndham Clark would be their choice to go represent the United States in the Olympics over Bryson DeChambeau. That would be a very silly thing to say right now. But choices have consequences. But here's the reality. Rob Brown finds himself betwixt 2 thoughts right now. On one hand, there is the thought of, my man, you made your choice. You decided to go to the LIV Tour. You knew when you decided to go to the LIV Tour that you weren't going to be able to score the world golf ranking points that you need to score in order to be an Olympic golfer. You knew that. That was kind of part of the deal. You were going to get all this Saudi Arabian money, but you were not going to be able to play international competition golf. But you got all that money. On the flip side, whether you feel like the LIV Tour is good or bad, and I think it's bad. Not that the LIV Tour is bad. The folks who run it, the powers that be in the LIV Tour are bad. On one hand, there are consequences. And Bryson DeChambeau is suffering those consequences now. On the other hand, doesn't this kind of feel like a bit of a disservice to the game of golf? Doesn't it kind of feel like when we have a tournament as good as we just had in the U.S. Open at Pinehurst, doesn't it feel like to go from that one weekend, one of the most, in my opinion, compelling and entertaining golf events that we have seen in a while? And part of the reason why was because the LIV guys were there. You had the full field of the best golfers on planet Earth. To go from that spot to a spot where we are now acknowledging that the best players in the world can't all go play on the one stage where the world plays is kind of a bummer to golf. It's kind of a disservice to the fans of golf. And I find myself wanting to. I don't know if I don't know if it's controversial or not. I find myself wanting to hope that a deal gets done and we can put this in the back pocket, because as much as I dislike the Saudis, the reality is they're not going anywhere. And as long as they are handing out 7-figure paychecks to golfers, the golfers aren't going to go anywhere. And if the golfers aren't going to go anywhere, we have 2 options. We find the best way we can to the other side, knowing some people are just never going to accept it, Or we keep with splitting up the golf world into two separate pieces like we're doing now. We have events like the Olympics that suffer and the fans suffer for it. Where do you land on that? 71307 is the text line. Start it with FAN, F-A-N. The renewal by Anderson to the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. Got a live read. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm Triple H, I can't have the Hardys show up. It's just I can't have Jeff show up. If you're gonna have one, it's Matt.
What if Cardona shows up tonight?
Woo woo woo.
Yeah.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, with you. Be a part of the show, 844-326-3663. That is the number to the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. You can text us 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N. We will read them on the air. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know Rob Brown believes that everything exists on a spectrum, okay? Everything exists on a gradient. And the Boston Celtics in the season they just had, the postseason they just had, the NBA Finals they just had, is also on a spectrum. My question is, on the spectrum of over here, it was expected. The rest of the league wasn't, was whatever, disappointing in the postseason, whatever. And then over on the other side of that spectrum, all-time great basketball teams. Where do the Boston Celtics go on that spectrum? Because I've heard people making both sides of the argument. I have heard some people saying that this Boston Celtics team got extraordinarily lucky. There was no Jimmy Butler for the Miami Heat. There was no Donovan Mitchell for the Cavaliers. There was no Tyrese Halliburton for the Indiana Pacers. And now that we saw them up against the best team they played, the Dallas Mavericks they just weren't them. They just weren't in the game with the Boston Celtics. On the flip side, I have heard already twice this morning this Boston Celtics team labeled as having one of the greatest seasons in NBA history. They lost less than a literal handful of games at home this year. 2 of them came well after they had locked up the number 1 seed. Yes, they played a bunch of teams that lost their best talent in the playoffs, but what did they do to those teams? They beat every one of them soundly and convincingly, as you would be expected to do if a team was missing its best player for any length of time. So on the spectrum of as a good team and a good season to this is a season and a team we'll be talking about for years, where do the Celtics land on that spectrum?
Doesn't Golden State still have the record? Isn't it Golden State has a record for regular season wins, like 74 or something like that?
Which is why those teams are mentioned on the scale on the side of greatest teams of all time.
I mean, how do you measure that? Is it about comparing them to all the teams they played? Is it record? Is it how they make you feel? I mean, how do you measure who the great? If they do it 5 times in a row, maybe then I don't know.
I mean, again, I think the reason that sports talk radio is never going to die, it may change formats, it may change sources, it's always going to change personalities, but sports talk radio is never going to die because these conversations are so subjective. Like we had our argument on Monday about the concept of a blowout, right?
That was last Friday, but I mean that's
whatever day it was.
It was right before we saw an actual blowout. Yeah.
The conversation about a blowout is subjective because I do acknowledge that a blowout can be a team winning by 1,000 points. But I would also make the argument that the reason a blowout feels that way is because when a team goes up 40, you know there's no coming back. There's no winning. So to me, a blowout is any time a team can't win. And there have been basically all but one in this series, and all but maybe 4 games in total that the Celtics played this postseason that it felt like the other team even had a chance to win the basketball contest. Sports is a land of subjectivity. It is up to you to decide what qualifying factors you place into a conversation like this one. The all-time single season win record is 73, set by the 2015-16 Golden State Warriors. They went 73-9, outpaced the 96 Bulls, who went 72-10.
Missed it by one. Man, I forget people's names, but I remembered that. That's just so weird.
No, you're a numbers guy. You're a big math guy.
I do like the numbers.
Yeah, big math guy. Big stat nerd over here. Big stat dork over there. To me, the Boston Celtics are going to land on the side of one of the best teams.
Yeah, but how do they rank just in Boston Celtics lore? I wouldn't put them as the greatest Boston Celtic team of all time.
I don't know that I would either. What I would say, though, is that the Boston Celtics do one thing. The Boston Celtics, to me, prove that the mentality of building a good team, with the emphasis being on the word team, is a good way to win titles in the NBA even today.
I hate to say it, but this is the second time I'm going to do this. Golden State showed people how to do it.
I would not disagree.
They build it from the ground up through the draft with young guys who became seasoned veterans and won championships.
I would not disagree. I think the Dubs showed you the process.
I want it noted that I hate Golden State.
I think the Dubs showed you the process of how to do it with homegrown talent, with guys that you bring up through your system, guys you bring up through your process, and turn into an elite team of guys that stick together for a long time.
So when you win with a team like that and suddenly stars emerged, isn't it now a super team?
No, I think
so. It's only a super team if somebody came in from somewhere else.
I think that a super team is a team that you bring in outside superstars to bolster. And that's not to say that can't be successful. Obviously, it can. We've seen it be successful, but we also know that it has a very high volatility level. We also know that if you build a super team by bringing in stars from other places, you run the risk that the chemistry goes sideways and it implodes. Am I right, Brooklyn? Right? So to me, what Boston did was get themselves some talent, guys like Jaylen Brown, who just won the NBA Finals MVP. They also went out and they figured out we don't need to bring in, and I'm going to air quote, superstars. We need to bring in guys who play complementary basketball. And I think that you can even look just in this series and see that, right? Because I am looking at a Boston Celtics team that brought in my favorite player on the floor last night, Drew with a J Holiday. Drew Holiday was a massive reason that the Boston Celtics won this NBA Finals. Drew Holiday is a massive reason that the Boston Celtics were a dominant team this year. Because Drew Holiday is the definition of selfless player. Boston just proved that, yes, you should go find, get, and home grow, if possible, your own superstars. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. But they also proved that you should build your roster up with guys who understand those superstars, with guys who fit those superstars. I would look across to the other bench at the Dallas Mavericks. And I would say, all right, Luka Doncic is unquestionably a bona fide superstar. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But then they went to get a complementary piece and they brought in Kyrie Irving. And while the two of them have had a lot of good games they've played together, let's be very clear. They don't fit together. And they don't fit together because the weakness in Luka's game is what? Drawing defenders to him. You got to place a shooter on the outside. Kyrie Irving's not a shooter. What's the other big weakness in Luka's game? I'm sorry to say it. His defense is lacking. Now, I know that he led the postseason in steals, and there is something to be said for that. But the ability to guard passing lanes on the outside, which is what Luka Doncic does in order to generate all those steals, and to face guard a guy head up at the three-point line and let me believe that you are going to be able to limit the damage that that guy can do, that's a different story. And I think it has been effectively proven here that Kyrie does not fit Luka Doncic's game. He does not fit the way that Luka plays basketball. So what the Mavs did was go get a star. They went and got a star, and they were just happy to get a star. And don't get me wrong, for a team like the Dallas Mavericks, a team that's got money but has never really been looked at as like a basketball powerhouse, getting a star helps. And getting a star may not always be super easy to do. But when you just go get a star and you don't go get somebody who fits the game plan, you don't help yourself at all. You don't help yourself at all. In fact, you make it, I think, more difficult to get it done. And I think that's what happened here. I think the Boston Celtics just showed you the blueprint for long-term success. I think they followed a path that the Golden State Warriors forged a number of years ago. I think that they elevated what that team did, what that franchise did. I think they did a better job of going out and finding the complementary pieces to work around their superstars, which is why they did one thing that Golden State did not do, which is create immense amounts of depth off the bench. If Golden State can't beat you with their starting five, they can't beat you. That was even true during the dynasty run of the Dubs. If they can't beat you with the starting five, they can't beat you. Boston can walk into a series and go, we don't need to beat you with our starting five. If we do beat you with our starting five, good, great. But if we can't, we've got enough bench depth and enough role players that know the spots that they need to step up in that we don't need to beat your starting five. We can beat your second five. And they did that all the way through the playoffs. This team, to me, I don't know where it's going to register in terms of the best All-NBA teams. I don't know where it's going to register in terms of the best Boston Celtic teams. What I do know is that this team did do something to me, and I don't think this is knee-jerk. I think this is legit. I think this team just put out the blueprint on what it takes to be a championship team, and I would not be shocked to see more teams start to try to follow that path. 844-326-3663, 844-326-3663 is the phone number to the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas Fan Phone. The text line, 71307. Start your text with FAN. We'll read them on the air, and we will do all of that and more after Lonzo sets a new standard for broadcasting excellence with this Sports Flash.
I've been in your starting five on this station since the beginning. Just want to say that. The Atlanta Braves took a 2-1 win over the Detroit Tigers yesterday. Max Fried gave up 1 run and 4 hits in 5.1 innings, while Adebal Hernandez earned his first win in his 4th appearance for Atlanta. The Braves' winning run came in the bottom of the 8th on an Ozzie Albies solo shot. Former LSU coach Les Miles is suing the school for vacating 37 wins during his tenure. which dropped him below the requirements to make the College Football Hall of Fame alongside the school. Miles named the NCAA National Football Foundation, who runs the Hall of Fame, as defendants. LSU vacated the wins after impermissible benefits were paid to the father of a player from 2012 to 2015. For the first time, we are going to talk about the brand new show, Wire to Wire. You need to tune in today, 3 to 7. I saw Steven was there and I panicked. He's so critical. Thanks, Bill.
You are all indeed Padawans of the Great One. Keegan, that is exactly correct. Kyrie's game adds nothing to Luke. If anything, Kyrie's game probably takes away from Luka's game and vice versa, which is why they're not a good pairing. New Life, first break. New Life, first break. The third hour of the radio program is underway. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. I am Rob Brown, the great Lonzo, on the ones and twos today. Should you wish to be a part of the broadcast today, now, this segment is a spectacular time to make that happen. The renewal by Anderson at the Carolinas fan phone's open, 844-326-3663. The text line is open, 71307. Start your text with FAN. Yeah! And the Twitter devices are currently working at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, or get at all of us at The Fan Upstate.
What?
The Fan Upstate.
What?
At The Fan Upstate.
Who?
All of us, collectively, together, as one. Did,
because if four of us were together as one on anything, that would be weird.
When your powers combine.
Oh, no. Now I pictured us as Power Rangers.
Captain Planet, man. We're Planeteers.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'd rather be a Power Ranger.
I mean, everybody would. But the Planeteers were great.
Did they have a Pink Ranger?
No. Earth, Heart, Wind, Earth, Water, Wind, Fire, Heart. Right? Wasn't that it? Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, Heart. Yeah, that was it. Heart was the last one.
Yeah, so they didn't have a Pink Ranger. So I win. I'd rather be a Power Ranger.
I mean, if I got to hang out with Amy Jo Johnson, aka Kimberly, I will be whatever I need to hang out with Kimberly from the Power Rangers. For sure. Heartthrob, man. Heartthrob. But Kimberly, whenever we do our 90s girls on television, Kimberly never gets enough love. She just, it's always, Kelly Kapowski, Topanga, which, by the way, yes, it's always those women. It's never the Pink Ranger. And it should always be the Pink Ranger. Kimberly was top notch, dude. Not only did she handle her own business, but she was a complete and total badass in the process all the time. Way up on the 90s TV girls power ranking goes the Pink Ranger. Hey, did we, not that we're not going to save this for Fight Club on Thursday, but I can't stop thinking about it. Did we just watch Open Murder on Monday Night Raw last night? You can take it off if you need to, but
it wasn't on there. So but I had to check. Yeah.
Did we just watch straight up homicide by a new faction last night? Is that what wrestling did? It feels like that's what wrestling did. And I, to be frank, still don't know how I feel about it, right? Because on one hand, I think with the departure of The Undertaker, the supernatural gimmicky stuff, I think you're going to have a real hard time making it work. Not to say that it can't, but I just think you're going to have a real hard time making it work. So unless there's going to be some supernatural gimmick to what happened last night, the entire gorilla position was just murdered on TV yesterday evening. How do you come back from that?
Well, they were doing really well too. So I mean, hopefully they have some recruits, some interns that they can bring up to replace them, because the show must go on.
Is that how they do it next week? They're like, yeah, our thoughts and prayers go out to all of the people who were in Gorilla and were murdered by the Wyatt Six last night. Here's our new class.
Yeah, well, they rarely show Gorilla anyway. The only thing they have to explain is Chad Gable. That's the only thing they really have to explain.
Chad Gable had what appeared to be a bullet hole in his head. Now, granted, they're going to be able to write it off by saying it was something else, but they knew what they were going for there. My man, and by the way, a phenomenal series of events in the storyline of the Alpha Academy last night. All right. Like really took some steps forward. And then they just murdered Chad Gable on television. I don't know how to tell you people how much I love professional wrestling. It's just the best. All right? It's just the best.
I'm telling you, I'm predicting this now. Chad Gable is number 6.
I think 6 is Bray Wyatt. I think that was the whole play.
We don't see Chad Gable again. A new character shows up with a mask. It's him.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Because there's no one more broken right now than Chad Gable.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what they say they're here for. I'm just, we'll see.
I get it. But they just committed homicide on television.
Well, I mean, and McMahon's limo is blown up. I mean, there are so many times that things like this have happened. It's episodic TV. So,
And again, I'm all in. And it just made next Monday once more must watch. I also love the fact, like, you got to play that angle because from the stage all the way back to talent was just covered in fog, which means one of two things. Either Uncle Howdy is supernatural and he just generates that fog wherever he goes, A, or B, they also murdered the effects guy and they stole his fog machine, which is what I want to be the case.
Or Braun Strowman had a lot of beans from catering.
That big son of a... All right, wrestling. It's the best. Let's get back to some sports. Hey, Clemson fans, here's some football stuff for you. 24/7 Sports has put out their ACC football record projections for 2024. They did all the teams that will be playing under the banner this year. Dead last in the ACC, they believe Virginia will go 2-10, 0-8 on the season. Stanford, they believe will go 3-9, 1-7 on the season. Boston College, 3-9, 1-7. Duke, 4-8, 1-7. Wake Forest, 5-7, 2-6. Pittsburgh, 5-7, 2-6. Cal, 6-6, 3-5. Cuse, 8-4, 4-4. Tech, 7-5, 5-3. Whoa, 7-5, 5-3. 7th, 8-4, 5-3 is Virginia Tech. 6th, North Carolina, 9-3, 5-3. SMU in 5th, 9-3, 6-2. In 4th place, they project NC State at 10-2 and 7-1. Lonzo, 3-2-1. You have left remaining Miami, Florida State, and Clemson. 24/7 has them projected to finish in what order?
See, I hate this because you always try to trick me. I'm going to go.
I will tell you that I read those 3 names in a random order.
Yeah. Florida State 1, Miami 2, Clemson 3.
That is exactly correct. They have Florida State winning the conference with an 11-1 schedule, and they believe they will go 8-0 in the conference. They give them wins over Tech, Boston College, Memphis, Cal, SMU, Clemson, Duke, Miami, North Carolina, Charleston, Southern, and Florida. Their only loss they have recorded is on the road at Notre Dame. Now, they do say Seminole fans should not discount the home game against Clemson and the trip to Miami. In second place, they have Miami at 11-1, 7-1 in conference. They have wins over Florida A&M, Ball State, Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida, Virginia Tech, Cal, Louisville, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse. They have one loss to Florida State. Clemson is the only of those 3 teams that they say will finish sub-11 wins. They say 10-2, 7-1. They have wins over Appalachian State, North Carolina State, Stanford, Wake, Virginia, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt, the Citadel, and South Carolina. Their losses, Georgia and Florida State. Any issue with it? Any issue with 24/7 believing that Clemson will check in third in the ACC? And oh, by the way, if these records come to fruition, if Miami is 11-1, if FSU is 11-1, if Clemson is 10-2, I don't think Clemson would make the playoffs here.
By the way, I think 10-2 may be a little bit high. Where did Clemson finish last year?
Not 11-1.
No,
not
I'm talking about in the conference. That would be third, right?
Yep.
Where did they finish the year before that? That would be third, right? So I don't think it's that much of a stretch.
In the ACC last year, Clemson was what were they? What did they end up in conference? 4-4. I mean, it wasn't great, right? So my thought here would be that, and this is why I go back to a couple of weeks ago. I would very much appreciate if Clemson fans would go ahead and list their definition of success for this year now. And this is the exact reason why. Because I think that there is this thought process that with a 12-team playoff, that it's just going to be easy to slip into the playoff rankings.
Yeah, they were 9-4 last year, 4-4 in conference.
Yeah. So I think that there is this new prevailing thought, and I do not think
year before that
is,
they were 11-3. So I was wrong about that, and they were 8-0 in conference.
I don't think that it is solely Clemson fans that have this thought process. But I think that there is this thought process that with 12 spots available in the playoff, we're just going to slip right in. I think there's a lot of SEC schools that feel that way. I think there's a handful of Big Ten schools that way. I think that there are a handful of schools inside of the Geico 12 that
By the way,
feel that way.
SEC and Big Ten should think that way. ACC should not. I mean, ACC should be worried about their number 2 team making it in.
I would almost agree to some point in that, yes, go ahead and somebody grab me the tinfoil cap. I absolutely do entirely believe that if you play in the Southeastern Conference or in the Big Ten Conference, I firmly believe that you will get a little boost in the rankings just by existing in that conference.
All right, who did Florida State beat in the ACC championship last year?
Last year they beat in North Carolina. How am I blanking on all of this?
I'm just thinking about last year. Okay, Ohio State loses to Michigan, and they were not in the Big Ten championship, right?
Right.
So
but you still finished in a ranking spot.
Right. Ohio State lost one game at the end of the season to Michigan. What did the number 2 team in ACC?
Again, are we talking about who played in the title game or who was ranked where? Because
record's going to come into play.
It was Louisville, by the way, 10-2.
Yeah, so you got Ohio State or you got Louisville. Who you take? I mean, So Louisville was a runner up in the ACC. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So you've got you're picking. Are you picking Louisville?
I don't know, because
are you
again,
picking the third team in the Big Ten?
You're not necessarily going by who is runner up in the conference title game, because if I have a 10-2 participant in the conference title game ranked, say, number 10 sign up to you in.
It's still making the same point because ranking wise, Ohio State I'm sure was ranked above LSU because they didn't consider the number 2 team in ACC to rank higher than the number 3 team in the Big Ten.
Dude, they didn't count the number 1 team in the ACC higher to rank than the number 2 team in the SEC.
We know that if the 12 team was in, Florida State would have been in last year.
The point here is, and I'm not even worried about that right now. The point here is, regardless of how you dive into all that, I think there's this thought, and this is why I said I want Clemson fans to make their idea of what they would define as success next season known is important. Because if it is make the 12-team playoff, I think you've got to call that shot now. I think that with the addition of the 12-team playoff, there is this now prevailing thought. And again, not exclusive to Clemson fans, though I do think Clemson fans have it, that it's going to be easy to get in, right? All we got to do is be top 12, which, by the way, is not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. Not true, but not necessarily true. And I the reason I have said I think it is important to label success now is because if, let's say, hypothetically, the 24/7 projections come true, Clemson finishes 10-2. I don't think that's good enough to get you in next year, right? I think there's this thought that, the regular season doesn't matter anymore with the expanded playoffs. My dudes and dudettes, it very much does. It very much does. I don't think Clemson or, frankly, Florida State or Miami or anybody else, I don't think that these schools have the wiggle room that a lot of folks think that they do. I don't think that wiggle room is there. I think you, at best, in the power conferences, and when I say the power conferences, I mean the Southeastern Conference, I mean the Big Ten, I mean the Atlantic Coast Conference, and I mean the Geico 12. In the power conferences, I think you can have a loss and get in. In fact, I think that there is a chance that at least one school maybe has one loss in the regular season, has one loss to an undefeated conference champion in a championship game at the end of the year. And that second loss, that conference championship loss, might bump them out of that top 12. I don't think the wiggle room is there like we think it is. And if 24/7 Sports projection of 10-2, 7-1 is what happens to Clemson, I don't think they're getting in after that. Shane asks, are you making a joke calling it the Geico 12? Yes. The Big 12 is selling off their naming rights, and as part of that deal, apparently they're going to drop the big and pick up a company name to replace it.
So you're not really joking. You're talking about reality.
I'm joking by using Geico as the sponsor because they just sponsor everything in college football. But no, I am not joking by calling it the corporate 12 because that's what they're going to be.
I hope it's Farmers.
Bum 12s. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
New life.
All right, guys, one more live and we're back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. for a very long time. And then it kind of got to the point where, and I felt like you could feel the switch. It kind of
you
felt
don't need
like,
it anymore. You don't.
I mean, you don't need it, but it kind of felt to me like it started taking away from, even in the social media era, it started to take away from the stuff that the athletes won't post, the stuff that the teams won't post on social media. Like I said, I know that I wouldn't use the word enjoy because I did not enjoy it, but I felt like it giving us a glimpse, for instance, into players getting cut or coaches sitting in their office preparing to call a guy down to the office to inform him that he was no longer on the team or whatever.
Can you imagine that happening here or any place of business and it being televised? Rob, we need you to come down to the office after the show. And, you know, the cameras are in there and everybody's watching as they tell you that you're no longer with the company.
I cannot, but I can also tell you that there ain't 8 million people watching any given moment. The NFL, I don't think, in certain spots, in fact, I'm not even willing to say in certain spots, the NFL is not like anything that you or I or anyone listening will ever be active in or employed by. And I can say that with some level of definitiveness because of the fact of, for instance, this lawsuit that is going on right now. The fact that the NFL has certain legislative exemptions from the law that places like where you and I work don't. We don't have antitrust exemptions that let us get away with stuff that other legal entities are not allowed to get away with. Because of the fact that that is true, we can say with some level of definitiveness that the NFL is not like our jobs. I hope I get to the point one day where I turn on a camera every morning and there's 8 million people that tune in. But realistically speaking, that's never going to be the case. So
with that kind of attitude, you're right.
No, it's just not. Dan Patrick doesn't have that audience. And I think Dan Patrick's one of the best to ever do it. Rich Eisen doesn't have that reach. One of the best to ever do it. Jim Rome, the godfather of sports talk radio by many, doesn't have that level of reach. It's just not realistic. The NFL does. The NFL has easy that number tuning in. So it's just a different caliber. And I thought, and still do, that if for no other reason, the appreciation of these athletes, these coaches, whatever, by us as fans, at least in the initial run of of Hard Knocks, was elevated by the show. And then they kind of started getting away from that stuff. And I'll be honest, I haven't watched enough in the last couple of years to be able to say that that's not the case. But when I bailed out of Hard Knocks, the reason I bailed out was largely because it got to the point where they weren't really giving me anything that I felt like I couldn't get anywhere else. And when that became the case, I'm not going to go out of my way. But we have Hard Knocks off season now. That's the Bears. I am going to tell you, I am going to be following this one. And I'm going to be following this one because of Caleb Williams. Because I think that as good as I think Caleb Williams can be, again, I'm not as high on him as a lot of draft experts are. I'm not as low on him as a lot of the fans are. But I do think that Caleb Williams, like every other rookie, is going to go through a pretty gnarly learning curve when it comes to figuring out the ropes in the National Football League. And I'm intrigued to see that play out, even if I don't get to see all of the gruesome details about an off-season football program. Yesterday, it got announced that we will have another edition of in-season Hard Knocks. And it will not be a team that they follow. They'll be following an entire conference. According to the release yesterday from the NFL, the 18-time Emmy Award-winning series will feature the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, let's go with this. They could not have picked a more interesting division to follow this year. That is a division that had all 4 teams rack up 10 wins last year. It's a good division. It might arguably be the best division in football this year. And then look at the teams. You got the Baltimore Ravens under Lamar Jackson. You got the Baltimore Ravens, a team that has gotten so close but has not been able to push themselves over the hump the last couple of years. They added Derrick Henry, one of the most intriguing names in the NFL free agency pool this year. Is that enough to push him over? Is that enough to get Lamar to the promised land? We'll find out. You got the Cincinnati Bengals. Joey B missed most of last season with an injury. Last week, he was talking about struggling with his football mortality, which kind of stinks from a guy that is, 27, 13 damn years younger than I am. That kind of stinks a little, but whatever. You got the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson trying to come back, trying to reestablish himself, trying to prove that he deserves to be one of only 3 quarterbacks in the league that has a $50 million annual contract in his possession. And then, of course, there's all the other stuff too. And, of course, you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. We don't even need to get into the drama surrounding Pittsburgh. They just signed a 3-year contract extension to Mike Tomlin, a man who has never had a losing season, yet the fans seem to be ready to move on from him. You've got the quarterback battle that will happen between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, and the fact that somebody gonna get their feelings hurt at some point sooner rather than later, if not both of them over the course of the year. It is super intriguing. And I got to tell you, for the first time in the last couple of years, great one, I'm actually kind of in on both editions of Hard Knocks this year, in and off season.
Well, I'm interested in Pittsburgh. I definitely want to see that and see if there's tension between Justin Fields and the other guy. And also, I'm interested to see if Joe Burrow is a jerk.
Why would you think he's a jerk?
He just seems, I love Joe Burrow, by the way, but he seems like he's kind of arrogant. And there's a reason why the receivers kind of act like they want it out of there. And it may have just had to do with money. It's very possible. And that does make sense, but he's kind of comes across like maybe someone that you don't want to mess up in practice because he's probably going to be a certain way with you.
The only vibe I pick up from Joey B is my dad shutting down the youth ski camp to open a new resort kind of vibes. You know what I mean? Joe B gives me the vibes.
Those are your people, so you would know about that. But I mean,
Joey Burrow gives me the vibes of like the bad guy in every coming of age 1980s movies.
Right. And I want to see if that's real or not. And it may not be. He may be as cool as he's depicted by a lot of people, or he's that guy. And which is more interesting? Him being the 80s villain is definitely more interesting.
I mean, probably. I don't get that vibe, and I got people who reported on him when he was down at LSU.
His name was Chad in every movie he was in.
Why you think we call Chads on the internet, man? I'm in for Hard Knocks. I'm in for Hard Knocks in and off season. I am intrigued by the Caleb Williams stuff. I am intrigued by all of the drama from the 4 teams in the AFC North. I will give the NFL this. If nothing else, they do a pretty good job of figuring out how to market players, which is something that Major League Baseball and the NBA should do a better job studying and figuring out how they do it. They just took a show that, at least for me, had been dead for a couple of years and got me interested in it just like that with one easy change. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. Texas said, I could care less about Hard Knocks, never watched Hard Knocks, never will watch Hard Knocks, and I don't like the players mic'd up in any sport. Why, out of curiosity? Because I got to tell you, players being mic'd up is one of my favorite things.
The Real Housewives of whatever, do you, Texter? Just curious.
No, I think there's a lot of people, and I'm not saying that this is where this texter's coming from, but there's a lot of people in the shut up and dribble camp. I don't pay attention to you for your personality. I pay attention to you because you play basketball.
I did not get that out of that. I don't know. I think sometimes you just want to see the players play, and if drama comes into it and they become more real, it's less about the sport and it's more about the person.
And that's fine. Like, that's a philosophical difference. To me, I look at the players and they are people too. I'm intrigued in how they tick and who they are. But I don't know. Texter, follow up on that text. I'm curious as to what you think. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Oh, baby.
Maybe they don't go to parties, Keegan. It's amazing what everyone can read into something, just one text. And texts have to be the most interpreted thing that we have, because if the texts are too long, they split up and you can't figure out where everything went. And short, concise texts leave out emotion, so you don't really know what's going on. I still think if you know less about someone, then you can't form an opinion of them outside of what they're playing, and you just watch them play, and you are thankful for their ability and what they do on the field or the court, rather than, oh man, I can't root for that guy because he did this or she did that. The only people I want mic'd up are referees. That's it. Players don't need to be mic'd up, just the referees. Especially when they're in conference and one guy is saying, no, I saw this, and the other guy saying, I saw something different, and to see how they figure out which one they're going with. That's what I want to hear. They're carrying coins. I'm just saying there might be a coin toss in that little huddle between the referees. Or it's Bob picked last time, so it's his turn. Let Bob go.
Let my Bob go. I should have gone to Grimaldi's with you last Saturday. They just closed.
They did? Are you serious?
They just announced it on WYFF.
Huh. I hope it wasn't for bad conditions or something. I hope it wasn't because of rats in the kitchen or something.
No, they didn't say. Someone just texted, hi, Lonzo.
That was nice of them.
Right?
You mad because they didn't say hi, Rob?
I'm a little offended.
Okay. Maybe I needed it more than you did.
You do have to work with me. Ooh, somebody just did a full Twitter play-by-play of the Battle of Waterloo. I think I'm not going to spend my day reading that.
the excitement. That was good for you.
Do not be excited. It's one of the most consequential battles in European
I
history.
mean, I get excited for things too, just not history, I guess. Yeah, I just found a story about it that doesn't say why. They just sent an email out to customers and saying that they're. Well, there goes the only pizza place that we go to on Saturdays. The closest one. Now we could go to Bricks, but it's hard to get in there. It's always really crowded. You been to Bricks?
I have not been to Bricks, but I know people who have and said it's actually pretty good.
Oh, it is good. This is right over there. I mean, I actually pointed to the place. It was over there.
I saw the point. I saw it in my periphery.
I think it's pretty accurate. The point. I mean, I think if you followed my finger in that direction,
I would just get there.
Yeah, you would.
Texas said, I could care less about Hard Knocks, never watch Hard Knocks, never will watch Hard Knocks, and I don't like players mic'd up in any sport. I asked why, and the texter said, because it makes sports into drama episodes. Like Lonzo said, I want to watch the competition, not hear the drama. It's enough listening to commentators. And here's my thought in response to that texter. And I do appreciate the text. Thanks for being a part of the show. The show is better when you guys are on it.
Thanks for answering back.
Yeah, and sincerely, thanks for answering back. I appreciate it. Again, the conversation is more fun.
We both appreciate it.
Sincerely. The conversation is always more fun when you guys are involved in it. So, I find that interesting predominantly because I'm the exact opposite. We get told in this industry. I still get told in this industry. Do you know what works in sports talk radio? Historically, what works above all else?
Whatever it is, you're wrong.
Human interest, like when two guys fight on the radio, okay? Human interest.
That's debatable.
No, it's not. You're wrong.
No,
I'm right.
I'm always right.
No, you're definitely wrong most of the time.
I would scream right now, but I'll go into a coughing fit because that's the other thing that you're supposed to do.
The reality is that human interest drives people more than anything else. Part of the reason that, and I will stand with you on this one, and texter, I'm not a reality TV guy. Okay? Reality TV doesn't do it, mainly because the majority of it's not reality.
Are documentaries reality TV?
No, it's documentaries.
Yeah, but they're okay. I think they're kind of the same thing.
Documentaries, I think, more are documenting what has happened. Reality TV is here's what is actively happening in the lives of whoever. And you cannot, as much as I would like to, you cannot say that reality television has been anything but a massive success in this country. Because by and large, we like our drama. Now, I absolutely get what you are saying, texter. I absolutely get what you were saying. That you want to watch athletes be athletes and do athletic things. You want to watch sports. And for the record, so do I. So do I. I want to watch the best. If you offered me two leagues, you offered me a league of pick your sport that is comprised of the most elite athletes in the world, but they are all entirely boring as. Or you offered me another league that had really, really good athletes, not the most elite, but really, really good athletes playing really, really good ball, but they're entertaining as. honestly, I'm going to take the League of Elite Athletes first.
But isn't like hockey the former of what you talked about? You don't know a lot about hockey players. You just watch them and they're entertaining on the ice.
I am going to say no. I am going to say that is a result of where we live. Hockey's just not big here. Okay? It's just not. As much as I want it to be, as much as I push it. By the way, Florida-Edmonton, game 5 tonight, back in Florida. I'm going to tell you right now, I have already let the fiancé know, don't make plans tonight. Game 5. Florida is winning the NHL Stanley Cup tonight. I feel as confident in that as I did in Boston winning the NBA Finals last night.
What if she makes plans in a place where it just happens to be on?
If she makes plans around the hockey game, I'm all in. Okay? She goes, hey, I'd like to go out to the bar tonight. All right, cool. I'm good with that. So I would take of those two leagues, the league that has better players with less drama. However, I don't know. I like being able to gain an introspective. I like being able to gain some level of knowledge and, to me at least, appreciation for the reality that is behind these things that I watch. Because, yes, I'm going to tune in every Sunday at 1 p.m. when the Panthers play, or every Sunday at 3:30 when the Saints play, or whatever it might be. And I'm going to absolutely root for my team or the teams that I cover, or whatever the case might be. But yes, there is something intriguing to me about understanding the stories that led to those points.
I wonder if age has anything to do with it, because before the internet, and the internet has a lot to do with it, we didn't know a lot of things about a lot of people. And I thought the intrigue of, oh man, that guy's a great player. I don't know anything about him. I wonder what he's like. I'd rather have the intrigue. I don't want to, because if I know that guy's on his 5th wife and he's abusive and shouldn't be in the league anymore, then that takes away from the game. And I know that's head in the sand maybe a little bit, but at the same time, then you're no longer watching for the game. You're watching for, I know this about this person, this about this person, this about this person. Yeah, I know they just scored a touchdown, but that guy, that's not a good guy, so I can't root for that guy.
I think there's a couple of things that come along with that. The first is, I think that is just as important to know, because let's keep it a buck here. Athletes, professional athletes, high top level athletes, have only been held accountable for their actions in recent memory because we know about it, right? We only learned about the Ray Rices of the world because that availability is there, and that type of information isn't just available, but it spreads like wildfire whenever something like that happens. And so I think there is some level of importance to it, because yes, we can watch and we go, yeah, I dislike that guy. That person can also be more easily held accountable, because we as fans can genuinely push back against that. We can push back on those types of athletes being allowed to maintain their status and their success. Doesn't mean it's always going to come to anything. Am I right, Deshaun Watson? But you get the point. I think the second thing is, and I think this is why that kind of stuff floats around as well, because Zoe, you can't have a face if you don't have a heel. If everybody's a face, you know what you have? A boring wrestling company. If you have faces and you can put them up against great heels, it's more fun. Why do you think we have rivalries? Because having that guy that we can beat up on, that team that we can hate, that team that we can pour, because let's keep it a buck. We are human beings. We all have negative emotions. We all have negative emotions, and sometimes, as much as some people are going to tell you this isn't true, sometimes it feels good to get them out. Sometimes it feels good to get them out. You ever been to a rage room before?
Yeah.
They're awesome.
I'll say Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. right here on the Fan Upstate.
Have you ever been to a real rage room?
Dude, I've seen you look pretty raging.
Have you ever been to a real rage room? That's a genuine question.
No.
We're going to a rage room.
No.
Team field trip to a rage room.
Because it would be like being back home, and it would just seem normal to me. A rage room would not, and I'm not trying to be funny here, but when you're surrounded by rage growing up, a rage room wouldn't do anything for me.
All right. Well, then for the rest of us who I will say, with the respect that I intended to have, fortunately didn't have that experience. And for those of us specifically that have been told you bottle up those emotions, you don't show those emotions don't go that way, to be able to go pick up a sledgehammer and take out a TV, get it all out is great. Well, when I line up against an athlete,
I could do that in my yard. No one would see it.
When I line up against an athlete or a team that I don't like, I get to be that guy for a minute. I get to be the bad guy for a minute. I get to get that out for just a minute, and it feels wonderful. So to have all of these different reasons to have a more, I'm going to use the word intimate relationship with athletes, aside from I see them compete for a few minutes or a few hours any given day of the week, but to actually know who they are and what they stand for and what they believe. Kyrie Irving, Bryson DeChambeau. We have had a ton of conversations about these guys over the past couple of months or years. Why? Redemption arcs. Has it not been, and maybe it's just me, but if you're a golf guy, has the redemption arc of Bryson DeChambeau not been a ton of fun? Why was it fun? Because we all used to pile on the guy, and now everybody seems to love him. Kyrie Irving was the butt of years of jokes. And then this year, he came out, and he debuted this new Kyrie Irving. This Kyrie Irving who doesn't go on podcast and say dumb things. He goes on podcast and shows the world that he does a pretty kick-ass Bane impression. And then last night, you may not have seen it because it was late at night and some of you went to bed. Last night when that game ended, Kyrie Irving walked to the tunnel, and you know what he did? He stood there and he waited for every member of the Dallas Mavericks roster and coaching staff and team training staff to come by, and he dapped them all up, and he said thanks and congratulations on a hell of a season before he left the court. It's been fun talking about the redemption arc of Kyrie Irving. Why? Because the people stories are what makes sports fun to most people. It does not mean that I don't want to see the highest level of athletics. I have watched people that I actively dislike as people because they are great athletes. Just like I've watched people who aren't great athletes, but I actively like them as people play their games as well. Because those emotions run that spectrum we talked about earlier in the show. And so because of that, I like this Hard Knock stuff. And I like that we're getting more athletes, and I like that we're getting more teams. And oh, by the way, I think especially for the perspective of the in-season Hard Knocks, this seems more team-focused than it seems individual-focused, right? Like it'll dial in on Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and they're competing for QB1 and all that. But isn't the drama there really about Pittsburgh trying to get this right? Like, to me, it is. So I don't know. Texas said, real question for Rob, since you're talking about it. When Clemson is not playing South Carolina, do you, in fact, root for Clemson? Yes. I root for Clemson. I root for South Carolina. I root for the Panthers. I root for the Hurricanes.
What kind of needy question is that? Yeah, but when they're not, do you root for Clemson then? Do you?
The answer is yes, and I'll tell you why, as we got to run to a break here.
Wow.
I root for Clemson when they're playing anytime. Because if they win, I do better. This is not a secret. I have not held this back from you guys. If Clemson wins, and I was told this when I got here, hey, yo, if Clemson loses, Clemson fans go MIA. They disappear. You won't see the flags. You won't see the tiger paws. You won't see the prints. You won't see the orange shirts everywhere. If they lose, they go away. I need you guys not to go away. So I need them to win. So yes, I root for them to win every week because it would mean that on Monday, I'm going to get phone calls and texts from you guys dunking on whoever you played that make my job easier and make me look better. That is not, I don't hold that back from you. The answer is I pull for every team that we have any connection to because it makes my job easier and I get paid more. And I am, and this is true, a very big fan of that. You know who else gets paid more and makes my job easier? Lonzo.
My next band name is going to be Napping in the Rage Room. It's a killer name. It really is. The Atlanta Braves took a 2-1 win over the Detroit Tigers yesterday. Max Fried gave up 1 run and 4 hits in 5.1 innings, while Dayball Hernandez earned his first win in his 4th appearance for Atlanta. The Braves' winning run came in the bottom of the 8th on an Ozzie Albies solo shot. In the NHL Finals, the Florida Panthers will attempt to win the Stanley Cup tonight at 8, or, probably like closer to 10:30, 11, and need just one more win to put away the Edmonton Oilers. Florida enters the contest as slight favorites. I don't know if you knew this, but you need to know it. Tune in this afternoon from 3 to 7 p.m. for our spanking brand new local show. Very, very new. Wire to Wire, Cole Bryson and Diesel give you up to date on the latest local and national sports news. Great guests, great debates, a whole lot of fun, and it's all Wire to Wire. Where's he going? I think he quit. He might have worked with me long enough. He's like, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. Somebody else deal with that. Thank you, Jacob. I wrote it myself. I did. I actually did write it myself. No problem with pumping up the teammates. Co-parts, if you will. Oh, he didn't quit. I thought he just. No, I don't think that's what he had to do, Jacob, because it probably would have took him longer.
It would have been. I couldn't because I forgot my banana.
Hey, did you see what I sent you on Twitter? Speaking of bananas.
Yes, I did.
I would die if that game was set in the restroom. That would be great.
Put a screen on the back of the stall door.
Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Maybe we could get engineering to install that. So make it play like the same game, and it always breaks right before the end of the level, the first level. So you're like, what? And then the sign pops up and says, "You've been here too long. Go back to work."
A 5-minute timer.
I have to watch Southern Charm, Shane, because I don't believe it exists. So Southern Charm is just bless your heart. That's all it is. That's what it's just smiling with a nice Southern accent and thinking, you're a Yankee idiot. I wish you'd go home. Actually, I was told that a lot when I first moved here, like half my life ago. Get off your phone, Rob. Do a show.
I don't want to.
Got to. Now. You'll get docked.
The final hour of the Rob Brown radio program goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. How do you do, Upstate South Carolina? What's up, America? Hello, world. Spectacular, as always, to be with you here on the show. Groovy. I am Rob Brown, the great Alonzo on the other side of the metaphorical glass. This and every single AM from 6 to 10 a.m. We're glad you're here. Let us talk here for just a moment from right now into a couple of different discussions.
What?
Let's talk some Carolina Panthers. I was trying to read something that I wanted to bring up here in just a minute, and my brain collapsed entirely.
So did mine, because I was trying to figure out how you're going to do that, but
that's all that happened.
You all right today? We only got one more hour. It's really uptight.
Let's set Lonzo up.
Do you need a rage room?
Honestly, it's about that time. I bounce back and forth between like a good, solid, deep tissue massage, and I want to hit something with a sledgehammer.
Yes, I invoke those emotions in people.
I mean, it's not just you.
I knew it was part of it, though.
We're having email conversations about the thermostats in the office. That kind of stuff drives me crazy.
That's more of a downstairs thing.
No, I know it is.
Yeah.
I know it is.
It caused a problem that required, people to look at.
Oh, for sure.
Units and things. Yeah. I can't find it. Oh, there it is.
So anyway, we got people downstairs looking at units. According to Alonso.
Back in the day, there was a reputation down there. I think it's since been cleaned up. So, I mean, I don't know.
Just make sure that every now and then you get your units inspected.
We're about to get a text to keep it up. I mean, I have no choice.
It's very, very important that at least once a year you have a professional inspect your unit.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
There it is. Correct clip. Correct clip for that moment. Let's talk about, speaking of absolute units, Bryce Young for just a minute, shall we? Let's talk about BY. Bryce Young has a couple of things going for him right now, and I want to get to those in a minute. But before we do, I want to take a look at an article that was put up a couple of days ago on Yahoo Sports by a writer by the name of Nate Tice. Nate Tice asked the question, what does Bryce Young need for a bounce-back season with the Panthers this year, aside from a better team around him?
Platform cleats.
Like the Gene Simmons of the quarterback world. The problem is, obviously, Bryce Young is a little unit. And Lonzo wants a big unit to play quarterback.
Randy Johnson?
The big unit. How do you have the last name Johnson and catch the name big unit? Somebody did that intentionally, right?
Nuh-uh.
Somebody was like, he's real tall and his name is Johnson. We should call him the big unit.
I don't think I got that till just now.
Bryce Young needs a Needs a better team around him. We know that already, right? But what else? What else do we need to see out of Bryce Young in order to believe that this guy can take it to that next level?
I just need to see one thing. And I said this all last season, better footwork. Better if he has better footwork, he's going to, I know you talk about throwing lanes and all that kind of stuff, but if he gets his feet right, when he had his feet right last year, he looked pretty good. And if he gets his feet right, and I know that comes from having an offensive line that he can trust in so he can have time to get his feet right, that's what I want to see.
That is absolutely a part of it. And I am willing to put the passing lane stuff and all that. That comes along with having a better team around him. I went, I don't know, a week ago or so. I had some time to kill. And because I knew these conversations as OTAs were taking off, that these conversations were going to kick up, then we'll have our little lull, then we'll get to the fall, and we will have more from there. I do think that having a better football team, having better personnel around him is something that is being worked on. You brought the 2 guards in the lead up to the draft. I think you had a pretty good draft class. Obviously, the Panthers truly believe Xavier Legette is the guy. And I mean, who doesn't?
That'll be great, man.
He's going to be a legend. An icon of the sport. But I do think there is one thing I would like to see a little bit more. And it is not just about Bryce Young with the passing lanes and more time to throw. And the fact that in one of those films that I was just telling you about, I watched 2 different plays, 2 separate times where 3 offensive linemen pulled. That's not a play. Never has been.
Were they on the same side, or I mean, was it like the
on at least one of them, though, 2 pulled from one side, 1 pulled from the other side, and they pulled into each other.
Had to happen in college once in practice.
Yeah, it goes real bad for everybody involved.
Yeah, I saw stars.
Goes real bad for everybody.
I pulled the right way, by the way.
Allegedly.
No, I did. It was Brad's fault. Brad pulled the wrong way, and we were the same height and the same size.
It's always Brad. So,
is that coaching, or is that players, or is it a combination of both?
I mean, it could be one, it could be the other, it could be both, and I don't know. Now, if 3 guys pull the wrong way, that's coaching. Either that, or you have the dumbest offensive line ever assembled. All right, and I have lifted up and will continue to do so. Offensive linemen are smart. They're dumb, but they're smart. An offensive lineman has to have more memorized than anybody on the football field, with the exception of the quarterback, right? When you're talking about a blocking scheme, you were talking about, especially in the run game, different schemes have different rules based on different formations and different alignments all the time, every play. You might have, on any given play, quarterback comes out and he goes 32, run right, XYZ, blast, 14, yellow, screen, banana. That lineman, when he gets to the line, has got to look at 1, 2, 3, 4 different guys. He's got to figure out X, Y, and Z to figure out what his actual block is. It's not an easy position to play, but I will tell you for a fact, there's no play where 3 linemen all pull at the same time, and there's no play where 2 pull from one side right and the other pulls from the other side left, and then they just all train wreck in the middle. Not a thing.
Unless the 2 pull and then they're side by side and the other one like goes in between them.
No, not a thing. So here's what I will say that I have seen out of OTAs and that I appreciate. Obviously, OTAs, you're not getting a ton of film out. OTAs, you're not getting a lot of game tape that you can go evaluate. You're getting very limited coverage. They close those out a lot of the time. But I will tell you what I have seen in the little bit of film that we have seen out of OTAs so far. What I have seen is a guy that seems to be running the offense. What I have seen is a guy that seems to be directing, is a guy that seems to be field generaling. And we talked about it last week or early this week, I don't remember, but the comments of Tom Brady, who said that the quarterback position is regressing in the National Football League. And part of the reason he feels like it is regressing, and I agree with him, is because we have reached the stage in the NFL where coaches with multi-million-dollar contracts want to be in charge of every single little facet of their football team, down to and including limiting the options for players to make adjustments, to do things on the field, to change up what's been signaled. You're going to run what I want, when I want it, how I want it, or I'll find somebody else who will. Because coaches are on a shorter leash than they have ever been on before. Now, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a movie is worth 1,000,000 pictures. We have seen very limited stuff out of OTAs. But what I have seen so far, and this is one of the things I am actually pretty excited about Dave Canales, is that in OTAs so far, from what I've seen, Bryce Young has been not just allowed to, but encouraged to be an on-field leader. And I'm not talking about be a leader as in be a quarterback, go succeed, and everybody listen to Bryce. I'm talking about the guy that can look over to player and go, change this, that, and you do this, and I want you here, and you do that. Everybody got their assignment. Good, let's go play. And that seems to be translating for me, or at least it looks like it's translating to me. Andy Dalton came out this week and asked about Bryce Young's development as being a leader. He specifically said that he is becoming a leader. When asked what makes Young different from other quarterbacks that were drafted in that spot and failed, Andy Dalton said, quote, "That's just the type of person that Bryce is. The best thing that you can do is the experience of being out there. Bryce got that last year. This year, we're still unknown. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's set up for Bryce to take a big jump," end quote. Young talked about the fact that Dave Canales has been what he defined as a, quote, calming presence, end quote. And I like that. I appreciate that. It is tough to, it is difficult to, it is rough to lead in a chaotic environment. That is why when bleep hits the fan, most people that are usually looked to for leadership wilt under that pressure. That is why military generals who perform well become legends. Because when bleep hits the fan, it can be hard to lead. It can be hard to inspire other people to look to you for a sense of direction and excitement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Dave Canales, I think, more than a lot of other coaches, understands that. And the fact that he is sitting there operating in a way that Bryce Young has repeatedly called him a calming influence. What that says to me is when bleep hits the fan, Bryce Young believes that Dave Canales has given him enough information, enough knowledge, enough respect, and enough of his own autonomy on the football field to be able to lead. You ever been in a spot where you got a manager, you got a director, you got a boss that's above you, and you become paralyzed to act because you are afraid that if you get it wrong, the person above you is going to be all up in you? You ever been in that spot? I've been in that spot where I knew that the guy above me or the gal above me wanted me to get it done, but that if I didn't do it the way they wanted it, they were going to rain the holy hellfire down on me. And if that's what happens, it makes it tough to do the thing. I don't want to do the thing because the consequences of getting it wrong outweigh the reward of getting it right. From what I am reading, from what I am seeing, from what I am hearing from the folks I do know that are covering OTAs or did cover OTAs, Dave Canellis has given BY the keys. And when something goes wrong, Dave Canellis doesn't go out there and rip up Bryce Young. He doesn't go out there and go, hey, you idiot, what are you doing? When something goes wrong, Dave Canellis goes out there and makes sure that BY is calm, cool, collected, and comfortable in the face of that pressure to handle it and know that, hey, man, it's football. Stuff's going to go wrong. And if it does, we're going to be okay. We're going to be fine. We're going to be good to go. Bryce Young through OTAs, and it is just OTAs. We're a long way from meaningful football. But Bryce Young in OTAs, from everything that I am reading, hearing, and seeing with my own eyes, looks like a dude who's comfortable. Looks like a dude who is composed. Looks like a dude that has poise. You want better footwork in the pocket? Poise. You know what poise comes from? Comfort. There are some guys that are comfortable even when everything in the world is lined up against them. Those guys are rare. Those guys are few and far between. Bryce Young is a cat that I think was under such a constant rush of pressure last year. There was no point where he had the opportunity to be composed, to display poise. From what I'm seeing right now, the offense is pointed in the direction of helping him get there, and I'm pretty excited to see it go into action. We'll talk some more Charlotte Panthers later on. I know it's Carolina. You get it. The Charlotte thing when they moved the South Carolina HQ in training camp kind of became a passive-aggressive shot, and every now and then it creeps up on me.
I'm just worried about maybe needing an intervention, that you're like truly losing it. It's like everything's going downhill.
No,
when
he pulled training camp from the Berg and quit the Rock Hill exploration to move everything up to North Carolina, I started passive-aggressively just calling them the Charlotte Panthers, and every now and then it creeps back up on me. When we come back here in just a minute from now, I got some soccer I want to get to as Copa America is just days away. I got some baseball I want to get to as the Atlanta Braves back in the win column yesterday evening. All that more coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Hey, I got it.
Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Robin, the great one, Alonzo with you. My dudes, my dudettes, my amigos, my amiguettes. Be a part of the show by calling the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone at 844-326-3663, 844-FAN-FONE. You can text us at 71307. Start your text with FAN FAM. We'll read them on the air. And tweet us at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, at The Fan Upstate. If you want to get at us in that direction, you are welcome to it. A couple of texts that have come in so far. Texter said, we know Zoe doesn't like Clemson or doesn't root for Clemson, but you both know this show takes more shots at Clemson thanks to Lonzo than does the afternoon show.
Okay, what's the point? I was told a long time ago, be true yourself, and myself is that. And I've been told before to back off. Not so anymore. So Rob hasn't told me to do that. And if he did, I probably would laugh. But still.
You all see the power that I have around here.
Well,
even on a show named after me, I have none.
Before I got traded, I was asked to tone it down. And that really worked out, didn't it?
Texture said, Rob, I'm a Clemson fan. I don't disappear. I usually have the paw on me somewhere at all times. However, I'm also the critical, honest opinion fan who catches grief from the homers. Hashtag all in. That's from Spartanburg Jay. Jay, appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, they don't like that guy for some reason. They don't want that guy. And, you know, it's a fan thing. They don't like the realistic fan. Because it seems like the louder voices are the we gonna win them every single one, and then we're gonna go Tigers. Those guys.
We don't take shots at any teams around here.
Hey, he hasn't been here in a while.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Anyway,
you either love me or you hate me.
Look, I mean,
that's fine.
I'm going to say this. And for those of you, I don't think we've really had this discussion since we moved to the morning drive slot from 6 to 10 a.m. every weekday right here and only on the Fan Upstate.
Well done. Well done.
Thanks. I practiced.
I know.
I don't know that we've had this discussion, but the tagline when we started this show that was in the advertisement for it is very true. The tagline being, we take sports seriously, but not ourselves. All right. We just have fun around here. Okay. The honest truth is that I want every team that we cover to win every game. I want the Carolina Hurricanes, the Carolina Panthers, not the Atlanta Falcons. I hope they lose every game. I'll take that hit. I want the Clemson Tigers. I want the South Carolina Gamecocks to both enter that game every year, both 11-0. Every year. I want it to happen every year. Because sports are more fun when you guys are involved. And yes, even the best fans eventually fall off. So that's it. That's it. It's just for fun and shenanigans. Speaking of fun and shenanigans, here's a thing that popped up on the internet that I'm curious as to where you land on it. Great when you and I are called into question on this one. There was, you've heard about the Waffle House challenge when you lose the fantasy football, the Waffle House challenge that's been a punishment in fantasy football the last couple of years?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm sure it requires eating.
So the Waffle House punishment in fantasy football goes like this. You have to spend 24 hours inside of a Waffle House. However, for every waffle that you eat, you get to knock off 20 minutes of time. So you eat 3 waffles, now it's 23 hours. You eat 6 waffles, now it's 22 hours. Counting down, etc. There is a cat on Twitter by the name of Joe DeLeon, who is an NFL draft analyst for a couple of different outlets, including the First Team Pod, who also was a long snapper for Rhode Island University.
Wow.
His real resume. Well, he finished dead last in last year's fantasy football competition. And so today he has to do the Waffle House challenge, except for he's going to do it in a McDonald's. 24 hours, midnight to midnight, inside of a McDonald's. But his boys gave him the entire menu of McDonald's foods. And for every one of these things that he eats, he can knock X amount of time off of it.
Okay, I saw that one about the McDonald's.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So here are some of the things that are on the list. That I'm going to give you a couple of the ones that I think I gorge on. We already know Rob Brown can take down 100 chicken nuggets. I've done it. It's awful. It's the worst thing that's ever happened in my life. I never want to do it again. 30 minutes for every 10 chicken nuggets that he takes down. Now that is, for me, 100 chicken nuggets is 300 minutes, which buys me ballparking 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours.
That's longer than that.
That's 300 minutes. 120. That's like 5 hours. Oh, that's even better. So I know I'm down to like 19 as it is. But I'm also going to tell you, when I did the chicken nuggets, by the time I got done, I did not want to eat for a month after that. Okay? For a month. So, because that was that bad, I think I got to look other places. Give you my strategy, so here's a couple of them. Number one, you get 120 minutes, a full 2 hours off if you eat a Mickey D's big breakfast with hotcakes. A McDonald's big breakfast with hotcakes checks in at 1,400 calories. It is 1 biscuit, 1 hash brown, an order of scrambled eggs, a sausage patty, and 3 pancakes.
Yeah, you want to stay away from the bread products as much as you can because that's going to be more filling and you would be able to eat less.
That was my thought too. I think anything that goes heavy starch becomes a big problem, right? Heavy starch or heavy protein is going to fill you up.
Yeah, no biscuits, no pancakes.
Here's the problem. You know what I immediately jumped to? 45 minutes for a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. I think I'm knocking like 5 of those down right out of the gate, right? Like if I put down 2 of those, that's an hour and a half. 4 of those is 3 hours. I think I can nail down 3 or 4. I could probably nail down 4 bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits before I even sit down at the table. It's not going to be pleasant, but I can get those down real quick. My question is 2 bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits easier to knock down than 3 pancakes, a sausage patty, scrambled eggs, and a hash brown? But then I looked down, and I found this one, though. You're getting 25 minutes for a McDonald's hash brown.
All day.
I can crush the McDonald's hash browns.
Yes.
Crush the McDonald's hash browns. To the sandwiches we go. 45 minutes for a Big Mac is a bad play, right? I mean, they're fine. But 45 minutes for a full Big Mac feels like you'd be better served to go back up to the pancakes, I think, at that point. Because you're getting as much bread out of a pancake as you are just the buns of the Big Mac.
I don't think so. The middle bun's pretty thin. And I think it's more about the sauce on the Big Mac than it would be, because that stuff will start to curdle after a while if you ate more than one.
I mean, I'm assuming you can just you can keep ordering fresh, right?
I hope so.
Let me get one cheeseburger. Cheeseburger, by the way, just a plain cheeseburger, 30 minutes.
Then you wait a half hour and then you eat something else.
I feel like the play is a buttload of hash browns out of the gate. Just give me 20 hash browns out of the gate and just go until you are ready to die. Then you grab the laptop, watch some Netflix for a couple of hours, right? Get you an episode of The Boys in.
Is the playground an option? Because it's technically some of them have them inside the McDonald's.
I'm going to say only if it's an old school inside playground. By the way, what McDonald's still have playgrounds? I thought they got rid of those. I haven't seen a McDonald's playground in forever.
I believe there's still one in the McDonald's in Lawrence.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'll
catch up in another decade.
Cheeseburgers 30. I feel like the lunch play is you just cram a bunch of cheeseburgers down the gullet. That's about as light on the sandwich menu as you can go.
See, I think filet of fish might be lighter than
filet of fish. 45 minutes for a filet of fish.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's lighter than a cheeseburger.
You're not wrong, but you got the filet of fish. I think comes on just a little bit thicker butter, and you got all that tartar sauce on it too.
True.
A tartar sauce ain't gonna hold up on you well.
That's the other thing. Do you have to have the condiments? I mean, can you? I mean,
I think you got to.
Whatever it comes with.
I think you got to go default here. I think you got to default. See, here's one that doesn't give me. Medium fry gets you 30 minutes. That doesn't seem worth it to me at all. That does not seem medium fry. Fries fill you up on the quick, man. You're talking not just the potato starch carbs, but you're talking about the grease and the oil that comes with it.
Yeah, medium. I think a medium fry is definitely more than a hash brown.
Let's see. Apple slices, 5 minutes. I feel like that's apple slices is what you crush between the other meals, right? Just like every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, pop an apple slice. It's not that hard. It's a one bite challenge. Just knock it back. But I think the play is crush. I think you crush hash browns in the AM. Sausage burrito for 30 minutes isn't bad. Those burritos aren't huge, right? They're kind of half-size burritos.
They're not. And the restroom is inside the restaurant. So, I mean, you know.
And you can't go anywhere. You're like, if you're going to have to, you're going to have to in the McDonald's restroom. Which, at that point, I will also tell you, play number one for Rob Brown is I am scouting every McDonald's in a 50-mile radius to find the nicest 24-hour McDonald's. I'm scouting.
Making sure they had that butt paper or
whatever. Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
I'm making sure they got a staff that cleans and cares about the bathroom, man. You know? I'm gonna be in there a lot over the next 24 hours.
Worked at McDonald's for like 6 months. Man, I hated cleaning the restrooms.
I think I am going like a combo hash browns and sausage burrito to eat up a lot of minutes really early. I'm probably taking a little break before lunch. I'm probably going as many cheeseburgers as I can get down until right up to the moment that I yak. I mean, right up to the moment that I'm about to give them all back. Then I hang out till dinner time.
Do you lose if you throw up, though?
I don't know if it's a reset button or not, right? I don't know if it's a reset button. This is one of those things where you better hope your boys are in good shape. Joe said, receiving a lot of consulting on this. Goal is if I can eat 20 hash browns, I can be out of there in less than 10 hours. Then reply with, I'm being told that I'm capped at 17 hash browns. So the boys actually had extra rules. They did say that for every 5 minutes he sat in the ball pit, he could earn a 5 minute credit. You know what? I'm out of pride.
As long as the police don't get called, you're fine.
I'm out of pride. I'm eating everything in that thing. Everything in that thing, for sure.
That's where all there's more fecal matter probably in that than there is in the restroom. So
he said to clarify on the ball pit, I can only sit in it once per hour. Not worth it. And he is going to start live tweeting this adventure coming up at the end of the show. Insta follow, dude. Insta follow. I got to see where this goes. Ton of hash browns, a lot of cheeseburgers. That's the play. I'm getting all 17 hash browns down like before I sit at the table. All right, actual sports when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
I just sent you a picture of your next t-shirt.
Whoa! That's a good shirt. That's a good shirt.
That looks like I saw that and thought Rob Brown would wear that.
That's a good shirt.
rebounds, and 11 assists from Jason Tatum. Finals MVP Jaylen Brown had 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. He said the long path to the championship was worth it.
Been through a lot. The losses, the expectations, the media. I've said all different types of things. We can't play together. We were never gonna win. We heard it all. And we just blocked it out.
Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo, and save with Progressive. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders, at the Sports Flash of the Fan Upstate. Are you worried that you may not be able to enjoy the summer as much as you want because of joint pain? It is the best time to be outdoors, but not if your knees or your shoulders or your back or your hips are hurt, right? Hey, it's Rob Brown. Don't suffer any longer. Non-surgical joint pain relief is here at QC Kinetics. Call them right now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. I am talking lasting joint pain relief with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. QC Kinetics advanced treatments harness your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue so you can walk and run and hike and play golf and kayak and whatever you want to do again pain-free. QC Kinetics is under the leadership of former orthopedic surgeon Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, a true pioneer in regenerative medicine, and their advanced protocols have enabled tens of thousands.
So Joe Gacy also sent out a picture that said, "We're here." Dexter Loomis, nothing yet.
Yeah.
Free is key during Craftsman Days at Lowe's. Right now, get one free Select V20 tool when you buy a Select battery 2-pack. Plus, get your choice of a V20 drill or impact driver kit for $69. Don't miss your chance to save on the high-quality, high-performance tools you need during Craftsman Days.
I also sent you something right above that of up, up, down, down. If you got a chance, you should check out Dom's. Woods made them characters in Tekken.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm guessing he probably talked to the game creators or something.
Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer. The light is fading, your hands are sore, and the last tool's been put away. Now is the time to feel the satisfaction that comes with a job well done.
Me too, Jacob. That would be awesome if he did that.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob and the great one, Lonzo, here on a Tuesday morning. Got a few more things that I want to run through here on the show. I talked about this when Trevor Lawrence got his deal late last week. There is a thought going on right now that Dak Prescott might be closing in on getting a stupid deal. $60 million per season to be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that this number kind of proves the point that I was trying to make last week. We talked a little bit about the contract that TL6 team received from the Jacksonville Jaguars. That contract guaranteed him $50 million a year. He is one of just a handful of quarterbacks that have made that mark. They include Deshaun Watson. They include Joey B. They include Trevor Lawrence, the top 3 paid per season quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Dak Prescott is now looking at making $60 million per season. 55 right now is the top of the chart. When we talked about this a little bit last week, Zoe said market. The market dictates. And I absolutely agree that that is the case. The market does dictate. But the point that I was trying to make is that anytime that the market dictates anything, whether it is the price of a gallon of milk or it is a quarterback's contract in the National Football League, there's a billion variables that go into that, into what makes up that market. There is the cost of the labor involved, the cost of the resources involved, the cost to package it, the cost to ship it, the cost of the profit, the amount of profit that a producer wants to make, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of angles that play into all of that. To circle back around to the Trevor Lawrence discussion and now the Dak Prescott discussion, I made the point that the biggest variable, in my opinion, that goes into setting the market of a quarterback's contract in the National Football League is potential. It's potential. It's not performance. Performance goes a long way. Performance goes a very long way. But when a quarterback gets paid on performance, they are getting paid on the performance translating to the potential of future performance. The problem is the number of quarterbacks that they believe that there is that much potential for them is relatively low, if we're being honest. Dak Prescott put a wonderful regular season performance together last year. And then, just like has been the modus operandi of every other Cowboy season under Dak, Dallas made it to the dance and they fell apart down the stretch. It happens. Frequently to them, but it happens. And yet, here's Dak Prescott about to make more money than Patrick Mahomes, about to make more money than Lamar, about to make more money than Joey B, Deshaun Watson, and Trevor Lawrence, about to make more money than all of them, more money than Jalen Hurts. Why? Because the Cowboys are looking around, and it is not just a matter of, do we think Dak is not the postseason problem? And there are a lot of people within that organization and within that fan base that do not feel like Dak Prescott is the problem. Like there are other and maybe bigger problems for Dallas than Dak Prescott. Whether that's true or not, that's up to you to decide. But they look at Dak Prescott and then they look around at what else is out there. And they look at Trevor Lawrence. If I asked you right now today to pick a quarterback to build the franchise around, would you pick Dak Prescott or would you pick Trevor Lawrence?
If those are your only two choices, I think I'm going with Trevor Lawrence.
And that's fine.
Because Dak's been in the league a lot longer. We know what we get with him. And Trevor's upside, I think, might be greater.
I don't know. I don't know if that is the case or not. What I do know is that as far as postseason awards go, Dak and T.O. got the same thing. Nada. Right? Got the same thing. Nada. Dallas has won a couple of divisional titles. We'll say Trevor Lawrence has not. Fell apart last year. Well, the Jags fell apart. Not Trevor Lawrence, but the Jags fell apart last year. They did not win a division that in like week 11, week 12, kind of felt like it was over. And all of a sudden, here comes C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. So I think there was something to be said about that. But the point is, outside of some division titles, Dak and T.O. got the exact same thing. The Cowboys are going to pay Dak, something that they have been working on not doing. Something they've been working on not doing for a while now. And they're going to have to pay him that cheddar because Trevor Lawrence got his. This is one of those things that in years gone by, and we talked about this because the Dak Prescott thing has been up in the air for a very long time. Why don't they just pay the guy? Well, the answer at the time was they weren't sure if he deserved it or not. They weren't sure if they wanted to commit long term. Then he had the year he had last year in the regular season. Consequences of the playoffs placed to the side. He had the season he had last year in the regular season, a season in which he found a couple of new weapons. They balled out a little bit. And as they pushed forward and through that, you went, okay, Dak can play some ball. You're not going to find anybody better right now. And if you don't give him that money, he will go somewhere else. And someone else will pay him. And maybe he doesn't work out there. But the odds that you're just going to stumble into the next big thing at QB ain't real high. These guys are not getting paid on performance. They are getting paid on potential. And the longer that you sit and wait, and I will say this, I think it is going to be more and more infrequent down the line that you see contract negotiations at the quarterback position that last as long as Dak Prescott's. Why? Because teams are going to see stuff like this. Like them pushing Trevor Lawrence's second contract back a year. Like them pushing Dak Prescott back months and months and months and months and months. And the money never goes down. The money never goes down because the resource never goes up. Unless we have a class where there's like 5 or 6 Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, that money's never going down. This is why I've said, even if you don't think a quarterback is the long-term guy, if you've got a guy that you think you can win around, if not because of, you pay that man his money. Not because he's worth it, but because he might be. Texture said, Rob, I'll die on this hill. Stick the Braveheart sword in me. Dak is not worth that money. Trevor is not either at this point. My goodness, something has to change or the hot dogs are going to be $25 a pop. Yeah, I get it. But Texture, as I've said many times, and I say it seems like every year leading up to the beginning of the NFL season and now the college season, like I pointed out earlier in the show, FSU just pulled like 2,500 seats out of Doak Campbell Stadium to make room for like 550 booster seats. Why? Because the NFL and college football at the biggest markets now, they don't care whose butts are in seats. They care that butts are in seats. If they sell out a stadium and they make the same money with 15,000 as they would with 115, they're going to do that thing.
And now the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
And now we're going to do that thing called What the X, where I ask Rob, what is Xing? And he will tell everyone why. The first thing that's Xing is George Kittle.
George Kittle. I don't know if this is why. I did see an interview with George Kittle earlier this week where he gave his take on the evolution of the tight end position over the years. It was really interesting. Actually had it on the rundown to talk about today, and we just didn't get to it.
All right. It's similar to that. It is, I believe, the second annual tight end university is
tight
happening.
end U's back.
Yes. That looks like that would be a fun time.
I've watched bits and pieces of what they've put out the last couple of years, and I've actually really enjoyed it.
And it's Kittle and Travis Kelce and an announcer who just got sent down because of Tom Brady.
Oh, you got old Greg up in there.
I think he's one of the original guys that came up with it, which is awesome.
I like it.
All right, the next thing that's Xing is Jey Uso.
Jey Uso, a couple of reasons he could be trending. Number one is because last night Jey Uso was out in the stands hyping up the crowd to then not do anything. And while he was out there hyping up the crowd, the entire WWE backstage staff was being murdered.
Yeah. Apparently, in an interview later, he gave back the Fireflies and told Kathy to be careful because those people are scary.
I mean, again,
he's like,
they murdered.
They're still here.
A room and a hallway full of people. So,
yeah, poor Chad Gable. All right, the next thing that's Xing, although he may have had it coming, Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. It is his 83rd birthday today.
So close. 82.
82.
Paul McCartney is 82 today.
Of course, one of the OG Beatles and an absolute man on the run.
Such an underrated song. I love that song.
It's a banger.
Yeah,
it's a banger. I like Paul. I still like Paul McCartney a lot.
Yeah, me too. Wings was pretty good. It wasn't the Beatles, but it's still pretty good. All right, the next thing that's Xing is Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan is trending because Liv Morgan is tiptoeing up to the line of softcore pornography on my guy Dom on Raw the last couple of weeks. And it's doing a real good job, if we're being honest. Doing a real good job so far.
They haven't shown anything like this since back in the day with Trish Stratus.
Yeah,
and,
I was gonna say I was talking
Yeah.
with a buddy of mine the other day.
It makes you wonder, is Vince really going?
Yeah, and we were having a conversation about it. The fact that this is the most risque the product has been since Trish and Lita, frankly.
Prepping for Netflix and not really caring what the network they're on right now thinks, maybe, possibly.
Yep.
I don't know. All right, and finally, the last thing that's Xing for today is Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban trending because I'm sure he had an aneurysm with what happened last night as a Mavs guy. He is going to have some work to do because this Mavericks team is, to me,
coach,
nowhere near as close to being ready to win an NBA title as some of us thought that they were. And I include myself in that. I thought they were ready. I thought they were ready they were on the verge. They were turning the corner. Turns out they weren't. They weren't. They got, let's say, humbled, I think is the word I'd like to use. Hey, y'all have a lovely rest of your day. Thanks for being here. I hope that you enjoyed the radio broadcast. If you didn't, come back tomorrow. We'll try again. We'll do better. If you did, come back tomorrow because it'll be better. For Lonzo, I'm Rob. Have a great rest.
Wait. They enjoyed it because they're still here.
I mean, I hate watching is a thing. I hate watch a lot of stuff constantly. It's one of my driving sources of life. See you back here tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate later. Yeah.
Hate watching it. Can you hate? Can you?
Katie Vick reference. Oh.
Can you hate watching a Rage Room?
I would like to take an active TV no Rage Room. I would put on season 8 of Game of Thrones or season 7 of Game of Thrones and then go to town. Go to town.
I was thinking of Christy Hemme for some reason. Wonder what happened to her.
All right, your boy has some not fun errands that he gets to go run now. And, yeah, thanks for being here. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Guys, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Tell your friends about us. Help us grow the show. You're all incredible people. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you. Goodbye.